Gamers, it is I, the People's Machine, coming back to you with another exciting episode of the Gaming Roundtable. That's right, the Gaming Roundtable, bringing you gameplay and videos and with about like terrible games called What the Fuck and a variety of other things and from the beginnings. And I know I have been saying I'm going to be doing some videos. I have not been able to. Kind of busy on my end, different things going on, but I'm not going to get into that. But today, March 1st, that's right, March 1st, Tuesday, we are back at the Gaming Roundtable for our monthly Gaming Roundtable Table Talk, bringing the man, post-human guy, John, and from Unpaid Gamers, which is what we are all about here. We are Unpaid Gamers, and again, John, welcome back to the table, man. How you doing?
Yeah, awesome. Happy to be here yet again.
Yes.
Regular person now. Regular.
I know. It's funny how that works out, man. Like I said, we are broadcasting here right now on Tuesday. It is just, let's see
Taco
here, just
Tuesday.
Yeah, Talking Tuesday. Just after it's just after 11 o'clock, 11:24 for those who are keeping score. And we are here with the Game Roundtable. We're going to talk a little bit to you today about our various things that are going on for the channel in the future, and some other things. So we're going to sit back. We're going to let Evolve play in the background. I know, just to real quick, everybody, I appreciate some of your friend requests. I know some of y'all were saying, hey, let's play Evolve. There is no servers. Apparently there's a way, somebody was telling me on my friends list, that you can just kind of co-op or whatever. Yeah, I haven't been able to figure that one out. So there's some smarter people out there than me. I primarily, when I do play it, I play it solo, but you still can play solo. And actually, it was a great game. It's a shame that it didn't. It's kind of hit or miss with the audience at the time. But anyway, we're here, Gaming Roundtable, of course. And first thing I want to ask John is, what you been playing, man? What you been playing since we last talked? What you been gaming on?
Well, I've been playing Judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think the last time we talked, I was going to get into Judgment.
Yes.
Or maybe I don't remember the start.
I think you were talking about getting into Judgment, Yakuza, and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, or maybe no. We did start talking about it because I think I asked about the city and how.
Yes.
And everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So still been playing a little bit of that. The update for Cyberpunk, which is a big thing to talk about.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. I have been playing that.
The new
Yes.
update and the new native next gen or current gen is really what we.
Yes, we definitely need to talk about it. Yes.
Mostly that though. Still just accumulating stuff for the library that I want to get into but haven't dove in yet.
Yeah.
But of anything, that's about what I've been doing is Cyberpunk and
Very good.
messing around for our future project here.
Very good. Yeah, which we can we can talk a little bit about that if you'd like, or we can keep it under wraps, whatever you want to do. But stay tuned either way. Myself, I am still playing 3 years later. I was talking about it before we went on the air here. Still playing Monster Hunter World, for the love of God. I've had some issues with save files getting corrupted, some stuff, which it's just a happenstance of gaming now and having a substantially large hard drive and power outages here every now and again, different things. And I've had to restart Monster Hunter, my main character, probably 5 times, to be honest with you. But it's funny because I get kind of right back into it, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm also just finally got a copy of Monster Hunter Rise again for the Switch, because that was stolen last year. And so I'm playing that again, which is great. So no, been playing the heck out of some Monster Hunter and getting into some builds and having fun with that. And that's a great one. But it sort of, again, always rekindles that in me, and I'll start playing like Token and other Monster Hunter games on top of that. That's one I've been playing. I've also been playing a little bit of No Man's Sky here and there. Which I was talking about earlier before we went on the air, and yes, Judgment. Yeah, I ended up picking that up, and it's like the Yakuza's, great games. It's a lot of fun. That series, that Ryu Go 210 Studio is just fantastic. I probably mispronounced that, but they're just good at what they do, and so I'm really happy about that. But I do, like I said, I jump around.
You got new Dynasty Warriors too, right?
Yes, that's right. I forgot. Oh my God, how can I forget that? Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. Wow. I sounded like Christopher
You're
Walken
welcome.
there. Yeah. No, thank you. I almost forgot. There's so many games, so little time. Dynasty
Once
Warriors
you put
9.
in that long.
Yeah, I know. Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. Holy cow. So I need to do a video on that. But this Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires is excellent, and of course, I favor that series anyway. And really good creative player this time around. It's always been pretty decent, but using the models and characters from Neo 2, which is what they developed, the creative player, it's pretty spectacular in the way you can make your characters look now, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. It does have some things about it that I'm slightly disappointed in, but I'm sure that might get shored up later with DLC or whatever. One of the things in the game, real quick, is in Empire 6, 7, and 8. When you were just being a solo soldier and you're trying to build up your stuff and you're just by yourself, and before you actually recruit people and you kind of form a vagabond unit and then eventually either serve someone or make your own stuff, you could go to these battles, and the battles might say, go here and protect these guys, or go here and get rid of these red tigers or that's attacking like the people. And there were little combat scenarios that could last several minutes, and it gave you the opportunity to do something in the solo, and you could earn like different types of weapons, different star rated weapons, and that was always fun because you always had that to do. In the new game, they took that out, and the other side of the big major invasion battles where you got to like do this multi-level castle siege thing, and that's great, by the way. It's a lot of fun. And you can walk around in the open world just like in Dynasty Warriors 9, but there's not much to do at all in the open world. It's just you can go from place to place to talk and interact with people, but there's nothing. There's even less to do, so it's like you can only like find things and fight bandits or animals. It helps you gain experience, obviously, and you gain like golden items, but it's a little disappointing they didn't just pull over the map and put all the other stuff in there. But it is more focused on the strategy. So other than that slight disappointment, the gameplay is rock solid. The graphics are rock solid. And I have been enjoying it, and I've already put some time in. I've not completed any of the scenarios yet because they take a while, but they did add a lot more things to the Empire mode as far as your options when you're a ruler, what you can do. So there is a much greater emphasis on strategy, and I like that. And so yeah, Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires is really good. And then of course I checked out the Babylon's Fall demo by Platinum Games. I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit because that needs to be a little bit addressed, and not from I want to say a egregious point of view, but a really puzzling point of view for Square Enix to publish yet a third live service game. And I did not look anything up on this game, so I downloaded the demo with a free and clear head, and I was like, wow, Platinum Games is one of my favorite game companies. They made Bayonetta and Vanquish and Mad World on the Wii and Anarchy Reigns and Nier Automata and the first. They're just a game company that's always been very much for the fans and gamers, and have never done anything that you would consider like, mobile-like or anything like that. They just never have because they're not about that. Well, apparently they are now. And that's probably a lot of Square, who published Marvel's Avengers, and while I love the campaign, they kind of shit the bed on that one and lost their player base, and it became very egregious and grindy and buy our currency. And then they also published Outriders, which Outriders is a lot of fun, and I did enjoy playing through Outriders, but again, kind of a lack of content. Buy this, now they got currency. It's like trying to do this live service stuff. They lost a lot of their player base there too. And now this third game by one of my favorite companies is doing the same thing, and I don't understand Square's trying to just make these live service games stick, and it's almost like bandwagon jumping. So, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah.
Apparently every Square game underperforms to their expectations.
Yeah, yeah, which is interesting, and they don't know why. Like we don't know why it underperformed.
But they'll do good numbers though. Like,
yeah,
you know, some of them, they'll do like crazy amount of numbers, but it's still underperforming.
Yeah, which is
like,
which is. It's like you underperform. There's a reason for that. You know, let's talk before we get into that demo, because I don't know if you've played it, but you should download it. It's free, and you can carry your character save over to the main game if you decide to buy it. And the demo is actually very long. There's actually a ton of missions, and you can play it for 5 or 6 hours, and you end up fighting a really crazy big boss. Then it's really neat that you can continue to play, because there's like daily missions and things like that. So it's definitely interesting approach, but to a demo. It's nice to see that you can carry your demo data over. I think that's so you're not having to start from the beginning. Yeah, not a lot of games do that. Token and Kiwami did that, and that was very cool. And I like that. Yeah. Anthem did that, which was nice.
I'm still bummed about that not really taking off. I don't know. That was a great start.
Yes.
To something that could have been wonderful.
Yeah, I enjoyed Anthem for its gameplay. I loved the flying was very Iron Man. It felt like a superhero thing.
Those ultimate, the ultimate abilities. Like that. They were so awesome. Yeah. It felt so good. Like all the it felt so good. I would have liked to then, of course, for one, just continue it on, but then two, it'd be cool if they made more of the more ultimates you could purchase.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
It'd have been great.
The only thing that I thought was interesting about the game, like I remember getting the Colossus a suit, and I was like, I just made it red and gold so it looked like the Hulkbuster, because it was so big, and it was great. Yeah. You felt very super heroic in that, and I played a lot out of that game and maxed out one of my javelins. Which is the assault javelin, and I had some other ones going, and then of course it was a game that, again, we all know through media and Jason Schreier and different people like what was going on at BioWare EA, and it was just, it was fucked there. So it was like they just didn't even really know what they wanted to do with the game. There was no clear direction and mismanagement and a lot of other things. And by the time that it came out, it was like, bleh. I mean, for a lot of people, I loved the gameplay. I loved the flying and the exploration. I liked a lot of aspects of that game. I liked the customization. I even liked not all the voice acting, but some of the characters were very well fleshed out. I liked the lore. It's just another one of those games that we're going to make a live service game, and we're going to make content over time. We're not going to give you a whole lot. And again, the big thing with this, and even going back to Mass Effect Andromeda, where people had problems with, my whole thing is I continue to say, you can probably go back through my videos, I said, this is BioWare, but this is not the same people who worked on KOTOR. This is not the same people who worked on the BioWare games 25 years ago. This isn't Jade Dragon or Knights of the Old Republic. This isn't, a lot of those people left. This is EA people. Boom, and there you have it, right? It's just, that's the way it is.
While we're talking about BioWare real quick, and I mentioned this a little bit when we talked about Super NES a couple episodes back, but there's a really cool book that I have you can find out there. It's BioWare Stories and Secrets from 25 Years of Game Development.
Oh, and, very nice.
It's a big, thick, like hardcover book, 300 and something pages or whatever. But it talks about like the creation of BioWare and kind of back in its heyday and that origin stories. And then there's small sections like of all of those iconic games throughout the years, like Mass Effect, like Dragon Age, and all the way up until Anthem even. So for big BioWare fans, it's a really cool book.
That's cool. Yeah, I'd love to read that.
It's by like Dark Horse, which does some of my favorite video game books, because like I'm not a strategy guide buyer. I hate strategy guides.
Yeah.
But I love lore books, and I love
Awesome.
those type of things, and they produce some really great ones. So anybody interested in like the heyday of BioWare, that's an awesome book.
That's awesome. I'm gonna look out for that. If I see that or can order it, I think I'd love to read about that, because that's a company that I have like supported pretty much. I both owning stuff from way back on the original Xbox.
We both bought like
yeah.
BioWare games.
You got me to buy Jade Dragon. You took KOTORs, both of them. I know Obsidian made the second one, but BioWare was like a consultant and helped them flesh out stuff in the game. And anything
they're doing a remaster, by the way, of Jade Empire.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I actually that was a game I really liked. And of course, Mass Effect Trilogy was amazing, and and I know they went back and patched a lot of stuff with Andromeda, and it did become a better game. But again, I always love to point out that a lot of what was going on there, BioWare was swallowed up by EA. It became a bigger company. There was more people working there. It was not such an independent studio. BioWare, a lot of the old BioWare people were gone. So again, there's a different working environment when EA came in. And it's well known that EA, they come in and swallow up these companies and change a lot. It's a very well known, established thing. They come in, they shake it up, they get rid of people. Nope, you're doing this now. This is how you're going to do it. And so I don't fault them per se for their missteps. I fault them because it's EA that ultimately, especially on Anthem, that did not have, no one could decide on what kind of game it was going to be, and it was coming out in like a year. And 6 months before it came out, they put the flight back in. It was like, wow, like they didn't even know what they were really doing for it. And because EA had different ideas versus BioWare, what they wanted, and that just caused a whole lot of problems. And so again, there's not any one person to blame, but it's a shame because Anthem, even now, if you go in and play, and there's a few people still playing, and the servers are still up for now, it's still a fun game to play. You're not going to find a game with that tight controls of flying and shooting and the whole 9 yards. They did a great job on it, and I hate to.
Almost free.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like GameStop, I think it's like $5 or something.
Yeah, it's like $4.99 or $2.99. It's insane. It's like Evolve. Evolve's like $4.99.
Really, it's one of those games. Like if you haven't played it, because the servers are still up, you might want to just
because
I think the out of suit world exploration kind of sucks. Like I don't.
Yeah, it's a hub thing.
Way better.
Yeah.
That hub I think was pretty terrible, but still though, like to play through the story and just kind of do that, it's definitely worth
yes, it's fun.
I think it's going to be unplayable.
Yeah, and the expansion that came out for it was free. So after you beat the story, you play another part of the story. That takes about 3-4 hours to get through, and it was actually really neat. So again, Anthem is another one of those. But as I have stated before in past videos, live service games just fail, and it's like the fucking stench of death.
Idea.
Yeah, it's a stench of death. It's rotten because you're trying to make a game with X content over a life cycle to where we're going to add free content, but we're going to add these things, but they always get bogged down into, well, we're going to make you buy our monetary, our in-game currency. You're going to be doing this and this and this and this. The issue that I have is the live service idea of a game that will get better and add stuff over time is a great concept on paper, but that costs money, and the company needs money in some way. They're already asking for $60, now $70 on the new systems up front. And then to ask for even more money, to say, oh, but we need more money so we can do more for the game. It's a lot, and it lives and dies by its player base. And if the player base is not there, you're not getting anything for the amount of money you may have spent on it. So it's, for some reason or another, people these games do. It's different than playing like a Division 2 where it's online and that's what it is. And yes, there are transactions you can get, but that's all there is. It's not a live service game. It was a complete game at launch with a start, middle, and finish with an end game built in, right? Where live service is like, we don't really have an end game. We just have stuff we're going to add later. So it's different. And a lot of people, and I hate to say it,
to
yeah.
MMO kind of thing, but there's still that clear difference, though.
Yes, you're right.
You can kind of argue MMOs are the same as a live service concept in a way.
Yeah.
Look at, like we was talking about before we started here, ESO.
ESO, yeah.
It's still really going. They're still expanding the world, all these new
yeah.
and just add more content. But I don't know. I kind of see MMOs as a little different. But I'll tell you, though, the best place where live service games exist, in my opinion, is fighting games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because look at, like, Street Fighter, right? Like, we're at how many seasons now?
Yeah, several seasons. Yeah.
And and like when Street Fighter 5 came out, it kind of got shit on a little bit.
It's really good now.
But they really stated though that like that was their goal. And like when with something like that, you have your engine that's not really going to change, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
If you do a shooter, the maps are going to get boring, so you got to keep on that. It makes the upkeep a lot heavier. But with fighting games, like the stages are much simpler.
Yeah, it's not the same.
You kind of have your engine. You can mess with the balancing. You can add characters. You can do that stuff. I think that's a good thing for it. And really, what I would like to see live service games move to is sports games.
Yeah, I mean,
right? Because like, how much is the engine from Madden changed in the past 20 years?
Well, I'd say in the last probably 6 games it hasn't. So, and that's been proven. So.
So
yeah,
I know that's not where the money is, but maybe it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know your real sports fans or football fans, they do buy those every year, but I wonder if it would make money sense to just have your engine and like you update the rosters, you do add features to it. Like, that's kind of what you're doing anyway.
Yeah, it's what you're doing anyway. I mean, it's interesting because I would like to see that in a sports game, and like, if you're not going to charge, fine, because your MUT cards on Madden makes $800 million a year every year, so you're almost making $1 billion a year off that alone, and that's that aspect, and you can't carry anything over, so people are just in an endless cycle of buying those card packs to get the players they want. So it's and then
I would get into it, I guess. Like I'm not really opposed to the idea, but it seems like a boring thing to me.
Well, and the fact that they make it to where if you really want if you really want like an incredibly good high-ranking player, I mean, EA had to put out their statistics, and it was like 0.001%. Like, you don't have a chance. They're not going to let you win the best cards. Interesting enough, if you go back and watch my video, the alternate sports week I did, and you see the Handball 21 game I did, the moment when I bought that game, it was right before the turn of the new year, and the new year hit, and I got this update, and they updated the entire roster for free. So all these different players all of a sudden changed and different things, and they have the card packs, but you don't have to buy them with in-game currency, and you get good stuff out of them right off the bat. So it's like, well, here's a small company that needs to make money, obviously. Well, Big Ben Interactive is a huge company overseas, per se. They make a lot of the alt sports titles and other things, and they do that, and it wasn't a fucking problem. So EA is, they don't just want some of the money, they want all the money, and that's why Madden should be free to play, if you ask me. But they're not going to do that, because there is that everyone wants to get the new one when it comes out. That's extra revenue for them. So again, as a company, kudos that you're making all this money, but it's terrible when you got people out there who, I spent $1,000 on those cards. Here's a new game. Well, I guess I got to spend another $1,000. I mean, it's like, it's just because I got to get those, because you can't carry anything over. And the weird thing is, the people who do really get on YouTube and talk about this a lot, it always is surprising, because they'll say, well, now I got this new Madden, I got to do this all over again. I'm like, just because the new Madden's out don't mean you can't play the old one. And they act like almost
But,
like once you can't play the old one because it's not the same. I'm like, there is trade function in that. It would take time, but you could trade the players and put them where they're supposed to be. So in the GM mode or whatever. I don't know. So, but I'm with you. I think it would benefit.
The game with that though, right? Unlike the defense to that argument of what these companies are really wise to, is they'll shut down those older online features, right? Like 2K's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, if you're into that and you're playing the online, like you can't really play a year ago. Like,
yeah.
If you want to play with your friends, you gotta just keep up with the game. But
yeah.
at the same time, though, like sports fans are what they are, right? And I think some of them play like all kinds of different games too. But I feel like they're a little more dedicated than your average gamer to a thing. So if that's your thing and that's really what you want to spend your time and money on, then it's cool. But I tell you what I've been doing though with some of these, and I talked about it a little bit, was WWE, but like even Madden and stuff, like those older ones, I'll just get on cheap now because they have their story mode.
Which is really cool.
I think they're cool. I love playing sport game story modes for some reason.
Yeah, and that's something that's relatively new, where they didn't do that before, but it's kind of nice that they try to give you a little something extra. Now, wrestling games have been doing it for a long time, and because they really are about storylines. But like, it's interesting to a football, basketball, whatever, hockey. I don't know if hockey's doing it, but like it's neat because hey, I got this character. I'm playing through the story. It's about me being a rookie, and while it may not be a fucking Dragon Age, but it's story level. But it's neat that they offer. You're not just going like, hey, I got the sports game and I'm just playing the game, and there's really it's nice that they did that. They actually try to put something in there at least, right? I'll give them credit for that.
And one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
They did like 6 seasons, 5 or 6 seasons. I watched every single one. I really ran through the series like twice, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But I love that. And one of the modes, it's one of the story modes in, I don't even know what year, but it's a handful of years ago, Madden. It was when right after they first started it, they really kind of went after that. And I think it has even somebody from that show.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's some relation, I think. I forget who it is.
Well,
but anyway, it was a cool thing, and
that is cool.
And that was really different for a football game too.
It's funny because people, when you talk about the live service model (LSM), with these crazy diminishing returns, LSM, the live service model. That's right, like the American Dream, live service model. The thing is with this, people are like, well, why does it fail? Where is it? Why can't they figure it out? And I think a lot of what happens is with this is, you think about, your free-to-play model games like your Fortnite, your Warframes of the world and things like that. Fortnite being probably one of the biggest with a very large player base. And they change season to season. They change the map up. They do that. But I've never looked at the free-to-play as so much a live service model because they just do seasonal play. Not a lot. It's not like there's a story or anything. There is a story in Fortnite, obviously, now, but it's like, I think when you think about the live service model and you go back and look at some games, you're looking at, like even recently with Marvel's Avengers, this was supposed to be, we'll keep adding heroes and we'll keep doing this and we're going to do this content, we're going to do that, but it's like they have to take a game, sell it for $60, and then say, okay, this is the content we made for it, but we need to not put it in there yet. And we got to space this out with these roadmaps, because Anthem had a roadmap, Marvel has a roadmap, Outriders has a roadmap. It's kind of like Destiny did until it became free to play. And it's like, people are wise to see this and go, well, this is cool and all. I just paid $60 for this game, and I went from start to finish. There isn't much to do afterwards. I gotta wait until they add stuff. In the meantime, the little things that they do add, it's like, well, now I've got to. They're wanting this, in-game currency, and if I want, and they make the grind really, really pain in the ass. So it's like that model. The big issue is the game companies are not respecting our time as a gamer, right? And I'm not just saying because we have busy lives, because we all have busy lives, right? We work, we do things, kids, family, whatever's going on. But the problem with the lives, it might be that too. It might be some drugs that you have to, the folks, the people at BetterHelp.com will help you with that. No, they're not a sponsor. I just threw that out there. But the thing is, they're not respecting our time because we talked about this, me and you have talked about this, I think even in a previous video. It's not the end of the year where the good shit comes out. It's every fucking month. There's 2-3 really good games. It's like, shit, this month I'm spending $100 because these 2 cool games came out. And how am I supposed to take one game that you're trying to get me to play for the rest of the year for this live service model, and I got this other stuff I got to get to? You just can't. And so if it was easier when it didn't do that.
I don't want to beat it to death either.
Yeah.
But the other problem I see with that too, because it's a little bit of that, but then there's also the obsession for the end game, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody plays the game. Part of the community's problem, because nobody plays the game to just play through the story and to enjoy that experience. It's all about who can get to the end game faster, and then you're at the end game, so now what?
Yeah.
You breeze through this content as fast as you can to get to the end game, and then you're like, I need more content. Well, maybe
take your
take your time.
Slow down. Yeah. See,
and I think that's part of the problem too.
That's actually, although not a live service game, Division 2 suffered that immensely, because Division 1 I played a lot of. People were kind of going through it. It was a new game from Ubisoft. It had a neat concept. It had good gunplay. People were taking their time exploring New York. The second game came out. The same player base came back and was like, okay, we know what this is about. And talking to some people I worked with at the time at Walmart, in particular, this girl named Maddie, Zazanti is her name online, and she had a lot of friends playing it. They powered through that game to the very end in 2 weeks and maxed their characters out. And the game's weapons and stuff is all about min-maxing anyway. And they got to the end, and she even said this. Yes, there was in-game content, but we were max level. There wasn't really much left to do. And they did add stuff later, but that was through DLC and buying stuff. And I was like, and then the player base, when I finally bought it, not more than 6 months after it came out, almost nobody was playing. I'd get online, because it's always online. I was like, where the fuck is everybody? And
at launch, and that was really cool.
Yeah, but
I guess I didn't really run into some of those problems, but
yeah.
It just other shit came out. And I was,
but that goes back to what your point was, which is people are like, oh, I gotta get to the end because that's where the game's at.
Yeah.
Then just make the game at the end. Just go ahead and give me my levels. Yeah.
And I think that's the problem when you base live service games on content, not gameplay.
Yeah. No, that's right? A good.
You're gonna reach the end of the content eventually, and then it takes time to develop content. And
yes, it does.
No studio, how big you are, you're not going to be able to churn out to meet the demand. Hardly.
Yeah. Because that was
very few games do it to a satisfactory level. Right?
Yes, you're right. I got through from when it came out at launch, Marvel's Avengers main campaign in 2 nights. I'd played it a little bit, but I was like, I'm gonna sit down and play this game. Yeah, and I got through it with playing 6 hours one night, and then another 6 or 7 the next night, and it got to the Avengers Initiative, which was the end game, and there's just again grindy, same old missions, where the story was so good, and then they added the I finally recently waited to go through the stuff. I went through Kate Bishop's story. The campaign was great. Hawkeye's campaign, oh, it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Hawkeye.
Black Panther, yeah, Hawkeye. And Black Panther's campaign was incredible. It was just as good as the main story. And even the little comic Spider-Man stuff they're doing was pretty fun. But I sat there and thought to myself, like, your campaigns and story is fantastic. Everything else is like, bleh. Like, it's just grindy and, like,
well, see, that
egregious.
Was my problem. Because I love the story. Like, it was, and that's really, of course, what I was playing it for. Was going through
Yes.
that. And, and you were finishing that up, and I was like, okay, well, we'll play, because it warns you, don't go into the multiplayer until you beat the story mode.
Yeah, it does say that, yeah.
Me and you both, we played that story mode and got done, and you got to go through some of those other things to unlock that. So, anyway, we got there, and I think me and you, we played, like, a couple missions as multiplayer. It was like, oh, this is really cool, you're this one, and I'm this one.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but we're playing the same shit we played through in the story mode, though,
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've already done this for how many hours, though?
Yeah.
Is it really that?
Yeah, and
it's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just
see, and that's the thing. Yeah.
And I can't really fault them because I know they can't churn out stuff as fast as you want it. But it's like it would be so cool to be able to go on like new missions with your friends.
Yes.
And I think if they really supported it how it should have been, and you use that as your platform.
Well, it's
just create continually create new missions for you and your friends to go on.
Yeah.
And to feel different, not feel like the same.
Yeah.
thing.
And the thing is, too, that's a great point, man, because, like, it's like, okay, I'm either in this, forest area, or I'm in a forest that's on fire, or I'm in winter, or I'm in the city. The city stuff's my favorite maps, but especially where Spider-Man's concerned. But it's like, the weird thing is, it's like, you're fighting AIM, so, okay, now I'm fighting a blue robot, now I'm fighting a green robot, now I'm fighting a purple robot, now I'm fighting, and you're just like, what is this, Power Rangers? And you're like, I'm fighting the same robot types over and over again. And then I go back and think, not a live service game at all, but you could play with people, was Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. And you actually are on completely different levels all the time. You're fighting completely different enemies that change up constantly. You get in these little micro boss fights where you're fighting a variety of huge villains. And Marvel Avengers, the new game, while it looks fantastic, it's fun to play. You're like, I can fight the Taskmaster or Abomination, and that's it. I mean, it's better now,
and think about,
but you're still not. Yeah.
Think about how many resources it takes to make those levels, right?
Yeah.
Like if instead of doing that, you just did like a Marvel Ultimate Alliance engine, those levels are much simpler to put together.
Oh yeah, because Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
Those out and just have that. You play them with your friends and going on new missions and stuff. Like that's where it would be at for sure.
Because one of the things
content-wise.
It is because it's because you look at Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and while it's definitely different from the previous iterations of those games, when I was playing it, and I'm playing as Thor, and I have my and you get a lot of characters to start, and the graphics look good, not like trying to be real world looking, but has that comic like feel. The thing that I was gushing about was like, I'm playing Thor. When I jump in the air to fly, he spins his hammer to fly. I was like, it's the little details that mattered to me. So I'm not saying that Marvel's Avengers was a bad game per se, but when you chase that live service model that does not work, the campaign, if they would have made it like Guardians of the Galaxy, right, which is again published by Square Enix, and that game got very good reviews, and it's a single story thing. If they would have done that and just added heroes and villains to fight and just added to the roster, and then you can play through and just add stories and didn't do any of the other stuff, I think Marvel Avengers would have been huge. But then they did other neat things like, oh wow, I can play as Thor from the Avengers Endgame. His costume, it looks like Chris Hemsworth. I love that outfit. He's got the short hair, the beard, the eye, and I'm like, okay, well, it's $5, and it costs this much in-game currency to get, and then they'd made it to where, oh, I can't actually earn him. I have to pay for that costume. Fuck you. I paid for it because I really wanted it, but then I thought, interesting. All the movie costumes, all the movie costumes are locked behind a paywall, and even Spider-Man, which has some neat outfits. I'm like, oh, of course, you're going to lock, like, the black suit Spider-Man, and you cannot earn them. You had to fucking buy them. All the cool stuff is, I'm like, you know what, that sucks. That just sucks. So you can take
you can easily gain with your in-game is like a different color.
Yeah. It's just, and I think,
and even still, like, you know, you can play that game and be fine, but, like, you know, because I would buy that stuff, but only if I'm going to play the game. And I'm not going to play the game because I'm bored of it now.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. And that's what they should really do. I think they should learn the lesson from the Avengers and just do, like, pocket experiences. Like, here's Guardians, here's another Avengers, but it's just a story. That's all anybody praised anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, use whatever Marvel license you can kind of get by with.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're doing that, and what's their face? The Spider-Man studio.
Insomniac.
Yeah, you know, they're doing their stuff. Like, we'll get some really good Marvel games.
Yes, you're right.
Waste your time doing shit on models.
And especially coming off the tail end of the MCU Avengers movies, which are like huge. You had an opportunity. If you would have done it right, they would have made so much money. But they didn't, and they are probably. And again, like you said, we don't know why the game underperformed. We don't know why it didn't meet expectations. Do you think? You know, it's like, because people were pissed. What the fuck? What do you? And at some point, Square's going to say, "Hey, Crystal Dynamics, stop making shit." Because I hope that the game continues to get supported long enough to get my second favorite character in the game. But if they don't, meh. It's like, at least I do have a fairly good roster of characters to choose from. They just made a lot of missteps with that. And that goes to, I want to talk, and I'm not going to talk long about this. Again, Square publishes Marvel, bleh. They publish Outriders. It's actually called Outriders New Horizons now. Like, it's got a new title, and it's like, again, same thing, live service model. Loot at the end was kind of lackluster. People rushed to get to the end game, and it's like, even though I do like the game, I love like throwing fire across the field. The combat, the moment-to-moment gameplay is good, but everything else is kind of like, you know, it's like been there, done that, you know, shooter, and it's not a bad game. But you also treating it as a live service model, and you asked for $60. There was virtually no content at the end. There still isn't. They haven't added anything other than some things here and there with this New Horizons thing that they're doing. But it's not enough. And so again, another venture that the player base dropped, and people are not playing it. And then you now are doing, you've asked Platinum Games, a game company that I respect, for what they do in the action genre, you Babylon's Fall. And the first striking thing to me was playing the game, after it took me like a few minutes to get a Square account to play, you know, it tells you right away, you make this character, you cannot change this character, you cannot change the class, so you're stuck with what you make. You can make multiple characters though. The first thing I got when I got past the demo, or the first level, and you fight and whatnot, and you get to, I didn't realize, and again, not looking at the game, anything about it, it just looked cool. I'm in this hub world, and I see other people walking around, and it's a city, and I'm like, well, that's weird. I didn't know it was going to be like this type of game, like it's online. What's going on? And I saw in the menu, it was like Battle Pass. Then it said Premium Battle Pass. So there's two Battle Passes. I was like, whoa, yeah, wait a minute. What, is one free? Is one not free? Yes. Oh, and then it said missions. It was like, and I kid you not, it said daily missions, weekly missions, monthly missions, seasonal missions, yearly missions. I'm like, okay, oh, it has in-game currency. Okay, there's a $60 game coming out here in the next few days.
Going balls to the wall.
Yeah, they're going like, let's just do every kind of. We're not going to just do season passes. We're going to have microtransactions. We're going to do everything. The only thing not in it is loot boxes, because that's a very bad word in the last year or so, and nobody's really doing those anymore. Yeah, well, who's doing it right? Hot Wheels Unleashed. There you go. But the thing is, the thing that I find when I started playing this, I'm like, oh, no. Platinum? You too? Like Square again. Who published this? I was like, of course. The other two games didn't work. Let's try it again with even more egregious monetization. I'm like, wow.
I wonder if maybe they just like started on these around the same time, right? Like, oh, we got
possibly
in the pipeline, and then you got to kind of finish it out, right?
Well, the thing is,
be a couple years behind potentially. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, and the weird thing,
going to burn through what they invested in.
Yeah. The weird thing about the Platinum game is like the combat is pretty fun. It's typical combat. I don't think it's as stylized because it's online as like Nier Automata. It still is that Platinum feel, but it's missing something. And I think it's because you're going to have multiple people. The other thing that just, I'm playing through the first mission and I'm going, I can't, what? It's like my character's doing like no damage at these enemies. Are they bullet sponge? What's going on here? And I found out that the game is centric around having 4 people to play with. So even though it asks you, would you like to play solo? You can play solo. It still seems, it's like you can play solo, but it's designed for 4 people, which makes it easier to take out enemies. But when you're playing solo, it assumes the game is still 4-player. So even playing solo, you're fighting stuff and barely doing any damage, barely doing anything. You're like, okay, so this is going to be, thanks for the solo play, but it's not really designed for that. There is no AI companions. And then I'm assuming gaining levels of might make it better, but people have been playing it since it kind of does, but not that great. And so it's another one of these games that, and then also weirdly enough, the graphics are strange because they're trying to make it look like a painting. And while it's very stylized, in the background, very faintly, there's like these brush strokes happening. You don't see the brush, but you see these little strokes, and it's very faint because it's like, oh, cool, we're painting a picture, we're painting a story. Every time you move, every time you move, it moves, and while you don't notice it unless you're looking for it, it fucks up the frame rate. And I'm like, okay, let me go in the options. I got to be able to turn this off. Yeah, no, you can't. So it's like, okay, so you're sacrificing the frame rate because you want to get your style across. And I was like, oh my God, Platinum Games makes some of my favorite games. They even made Metal Gear Rising Vengeance, which was fantastic. I'm like, I cannot believe that they're trying a third attempt at another live server. I just can't. And I was playing it going like, I would like to own this game, but I sure the fuck do not want to pay $60 for it. Like, I don't even think, I just was like, what did they do?
Learn some lessons with this thing, before long, make some adjustments or something.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question though.
Yeah.
So speaking of settings like that you can turn off, whatever, that greatly affect your thing. Do you like motion blur?
If motion blur is in a game and it's not egregious, if they're not like overtly doing it and it's just subtle, I'm okay with that because it makes sense to have some if you turn your head, but it should be so subtle that when you reorient, it should be instant. So it's like motion blur only to me is good if they do it in a way that's very, very subtle. Like it should be more not. And I've played some games where
I like it. I guess
some games
I don't
terrible.
care that it's there. Yeah. Really, the main one that fucked me up was Doom.
Yeah.
The remake of Doom. Like it was really strong for some reason, and I was like, I don't know. It just kind of messes with me playing it. So I would turn it off, and it just made it better. And
Yeah.
it's cool, but I find myself turning it off now. Like if I notice it on a game, I'll just go ahead and turn it off.
Yeah. I know in Rage 2 it has it, but it has it. It's like Doom, where the motion blur is very like, you're like, oh shit, right? And it's not very real to me. So but they have, what's weird is instead of an on-off, they have like a slider and an off.
Yeah.
So I can
Doom does
adjust
have
it.
that
Yeah.
as well, yeah.
So I'll adjust it down to where it's low enough to where it's subtle. I don't mind a little bit in there. I mean, I have played some games that was pretty bad. The worst offender of it was Final Fantasy Type 0, and it was so bad. It was so bad when you turned the camera. I mean, it was so bad. I mean, the graphics just looked like somebody just washed them away with water, motion blur. That it was, and it was so bad that they actually patched it out. Like, not even got an option. They just got rid of it, and it made the game that much better. I was like, okay, now the game's actually playable, and so it ended up being one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. Oddly enough. But it's, again, motion blur is if it's subtle, yes. If it's like insane, fuck it, turn it off. You know.
Yeah, I was just curious, real quick.
Yes,
okay.
but
So before we get too far removed from live service stuff,
yeah,
it's going to kind of tie in a little bit. But the last time we talked, of course, there was the big Microsoft purchase, right?
yes, which I don't think has gone through yet. Has it? Has it not been?
No, not the review thing, but I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sony's response was buying Bungie.
Yes. Yes, Sony's response was buying Bungie.
Which is kind of odd to me, I suppose. It's like an odd response, I think. And I guess maybe to them it's not really meant to be a response because they talked about it being in the works already.
Yes.
And it probably was.
Sony is
Sony
is a multimedia platform, so they're not just looking at like, hey, we get revenue from Destiny, which it's not the player base as it used to be, even though a lot of people play it. They're looking at films, and I know that they already stated that they looked at like it's a multimedia thing, so we can make a film, we can make a series, a TV series. They're looking at Destiny's lore and what it is about and make something really cool. Now, I would go see a Destiny film, and I'd watch a series if it was done well. So, and Sony's also looking at like Take-Two. They're looking at smaller companies that have a really nice library of games. I find
what I had heard about the Bungie stuff. You want to go ahead, or you want me to say that?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. So one thing I had read, and it kind of made sense after I read it to them, is they're really looking to. So like if you look at Microsoft, of course, they're changing the way that people play a library, right, with Game Pass. They're kind of working to revolutionize that.
Yes.
So I think Sony's kind of trying to go a little bit different route, but they want to change the way kind of games are seen and played. And I think they made mention of using Bungie's experience in a live service kind of method of doing things to kind of assist them with that. So I don't really know what that means necessarily.
Yeah.
But
well,
we may be seeing more of more games with a blend of online and offline stuff, which is kind of, I don't know, good and bad, I suppose.
Destiny is more or less an MMO because you're always online and there's always people playing, and even though the story mode you can play solo, it's still online when it happens, and sometimes you'll just see random players they're not helping you, they're just running through the world. And it's like I put a lot of time in the first game, and 3 years worth of my time, and the second game I put 6 months into, and I do occasionally go back and check it out, and again it's what I said before about it. You're just chasing this power number all the time, and the game is just that. There's a lot of mobile like stuff in it, even though everything's cosmetic. It's just when you're playing the game, you're like, okay, now I gotta do my dailies, now I gotta do my weeklies, and now I'm just chasing this number because I gotta get to this power rank, and I'm gonna have to do this raid, and it's like when you're playing the game, you're just going through the motions, and while its moment-to-moment gameplay is just rock solid because of the gunplay, which is based off Halo's gunplay, which is rock solid. It's like that's the only reason anybody plays the game. If the gameplay, I've said it then, and I said it on the first game, and I'll say it now. If the gunplay was like, if it was just not good, if it was just not the best gunplay and the way things felt, like the feeling, the weight of the weapons, if it just wasn't very good, nobody would play it. It would have been long since dead, because that's what holds it up, and it's always held it up. And so Bungie can spin everything about its lore and its world and the game environment and the blah 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 blah, and add stuff and change the lore and change the canon of it and everything else they want. Nobody gave a shit. It's what they like is the gunplay and the general loot systems, which again, the loot systems, it's an RNG loot system and not a randomized loot system like Diablo. These are items that are already just in the game that they roll a dice whether or not you get it or not in the background. So, there's only X number of green helmets, blue helmets, purple helmets, legendary. They're pre-existing. So
Borderlands 3
that's what they need, but they won't, because that's something that's not put into the game structure. So I would love for them to do that. Geez, but Borderlands 3 and the Borderlands series, that's designed for like its multiple billions of different combinations, because a random generator, like Diablo. And Diablo is like, even though Destiny is considered a looter shooter per se, because there is a lot in there, you can actually get every helmet, every piece of gear in the game and have it, and just have it. So you're done. You can earn no more gear. It would take a long time. I was at a point where, at one point in Destiny 1, I had every exotic weapon in the game. Like, I could get no more. I had them all. So that's it. And I was like, oh, okay. It took a long time. It took me a year, but I got them. And it's like I had every one. And so that was like an achievement for me. But the thing is that Sony buying Bungie and using Bungie's knowledge and experience to probably help other Sony endeavors as far as their other games they're producing, right?
I think that's the plan.
Yeah, but I will say this: I do not wish to play an MMO or live service game or something that's semi-live service with a free-to-play model or whatever they're doing. God of War, I don't. God of War is great on its own. It has a great story. It has this awesome, especially the newer ones with a great shoulder cam, the way they changed it. It's a fantastic game. It doesn't need it. They tried with the multiplayer in 3, and it didn't work. So don't do it again. And use Bungie's knowledge as a gaming company and use that, but don't use them to do something stupid.
Speaking of God of War, the rumor is that sequel is coming mid-year and not like holiday season.
I've heard that. I've actually heard that. Yes. Because God of War, I don't know if you played the new one, or it'll come out 2 years ago.
Awesome.
That game is fantastic, and I liked the series, and I have the third one that they remastered and I got for free 1 month, and I played through it. I was like, this is really good. And I hadn't played the first two because at the time I didn't own any PlayStation. I played this one and I'm thinking, I love this new over-the-shoulder. I like the fact that, me, Norse mythology, I love that shit. I like mythology in general, but Norse is just interesting and to me. And the moment that I knew I fell in love with the game was early on, and you first fight Baldur. And that fucking fight at the beginning, pretty much the very beginning of the game, it's like, this is the most insane fight because of the perspective and the power fantasy there. And I got done and I was like, that that's incredible. Like I just felt it was like I just fell in love with it.
I'm glad you gave a chance, really, because I remember I got it on launch, and I remember telling you how awesome it was, and you're like, yeah, at some point, and then I think it finally went on sale.
It went on sale.
What it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you finally got it, and I was like, oh, okay, now you'll see.
The game was badass, man. Yeah.
That freaking the witch's hut or whatever.
Yeah.
That you walk up to and like it rises up out of the ground, you know, like it was so.
And that game, God of War is like, it's totally that. You're just like, whoa. Or you first time you run into the Midgard serpent, and you're like, whoa. Like everything in that game is so incredible. It's like, wow. And
the scale of that stuff is what makes it so cool.
Yes, and God of War, you know, and again, I give credit where credit's due what Microsoft is doing and accomplishing, and I feel like it's a smart move on their part, because Activision Blizzard is just fucked right now with all the fucking, we talked about that in the previous video, all the fucked up shit that's going on at the company. And Microsoft is going to step in and I think ultimately fix a lot of that, because they're like, I mean, that's not going to happen to our watch, fuck you. We're a publicly traded.
They're really rebalancing things. Because you know, like PlayStation just steamrolled PS4 and Xbox One era. Right?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
No comparison. Like you got those games for, you know, you got a couple Halo things out of it, and a Gears, and that's kind of about it. Like Forza Horizon's like been the shining thing on Xbox and but like they came out balling this time around, and you know what they're doing with Game Pass, what they're doing with these acquisitions, they're definitely not fucking around. And,
no, they're not. They're not,
and they're bringing enough to the table, you know, to really make me feel good about getting an Xbox this time around.
Yeah.
So. And the cool thing they're doing is with that, you know, the Series S, right? Like it's not going to be as high res and high frame rate, and you know, it's not a boss ass system, but you know, you're kind of putting it in the Switch kind of level of things. Much really like how the discless version of the PS5 is.
Yeah.
Like you could get one and then get the cheap version of the other one fairly easily.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because that S is like, what is it, $299?
Yeah, it's $299. Yeah. I tell you, it's interesting. Microsoft, you know, when this acquisition thing was happening, I find it interesting that they called Sony. They personally talked to like the different heads. They all, it's interesting. I'm like, you know, it's funny because here they are supposedly competitors, and yet they're talking to make sure there's transparency there amongst the companies. Nintendo's just like, fuck it, our Switch is popular and very successful, so we don't really give a shit what you're doing. And it's like, and I give kudos to Nintendo for just being like, meh, whatever. We're good over here. You know, it's like, but I you know, which it's became like a big Steam platform for them. Like everything's on the Switch. It's like, what the fuck? But I tell you,
did you catch? Go ahead.
I tell you though, Sony is looking at other companies like Take-Two. They are looking at, you know, THQ Nordic. They are looking at other companies to possibly buy in the future. So if they end up going that route, they also too will end up with a very extensive library, and they're working on their own version of Game Pass apparently. So I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm glad that these things are happening, because I feel that competition helps the industry not just grow, but, and not just one-upsmen or this or that. It's just when you have two companies, they're both trying to, it was like the old days of WWE and WCW. They were traces of gaming. It's because it produced some amazing entertaining products. And if Sony just said, fuck it, we're not doing it no more, Microsoft would, let's say, be the king of the game systems, and that's all there was. Over time, I think that would hurt them.
Where Sony landed, and I think it made them a little more comfortable. Now, and I'm not saying Sony's putting out bad shit, because they got really amazing first-party games, and I think their first-party stuff is way better than anything else. Without arguably Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
But like, I mean, there's a lot of shit that's just theirs, and that's all, it's gonna be theirs.
Yeah. Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War.
There's some really weird decisions though with PS5 and some of this stuff, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like I really do think the Series X is, in most ways, the better system.
Now I'm
Now,
going
I'm
to
not
tell
saying
you,
like
yeah,
game wise or anything. I just mean like literally hardware console wise.
yes,
I think, but
yeah,
there is a couple things about the UI that I don't like. But whatever, you know. So I think they really spent the effort to kind of, you know, again, come out
yeah,
and let everybody know they mean business.
yeah,
They're both doing great things, and you know, it makes it a little tough for the gamers though, because
yeah.
it's like you really like games on both systems now.
Yeah,
You
I know.
know.
I mean, it's good that you have both. Not everybody has that option. I mean, I have a Switch and a PS4, and I have my old consoles, obviously. But you know, what's interesting is this is the kind of the way that I'm viewing it. It's kind of like, hey, if you really want a system that really caters to like anime games and JRPGs and very Japan centric style of gaming, not every game, but a large percentage of their library, then definitely the Sony route is the better money. If you're wanting something more Western focused, and not that they don't have Japanese stuff on the Microsoft system, but if you want something that's more Western centric focused, you know, Western style RPGs, Western style type of gameplay or games, even though you can get pretty much everything on both, I still feel that if that's your more gravitational pull, then go with that. You know what I mean? So it's like, but it's beneficial to have both. Exclusives are exclusives, and if you can have both, then definitely do both. I don't have Xbox. I have an Xbox 360. I don't have an Xbox. What was the Xbox One? That was the one. But it's like I don't have that. I've looked into getting one because there's some stuff on it I'd like to have. They're cheaper now. But, you know, the thing is I got a Switch.
If you get one, just get a Series S.
Yeah,
right?
Series S, yeah, the digital one, yeah.
Because it'll play all the Xbox One stuff.
Yeah.
Well, not the discs, of course.
Yeah.
But
But
you know, you can go on back and continue playing new and do the Game Pass.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
And
access to all kinds of shit.
I find myself on my Switch trying to buy, like, there's a lot of games on the Switch that's not on PS4, and I find myself, even though I do have some duplicates on one or the other, just because I wanted that portability, especially for travel. That's the only time I really play them, when I'm traveling, which I don't travel that often. But like on the Switch, it's kind of like my rule of thumb is, if I can get it on both, I'll get it on PS4. If I can get it on Switch and it's not on PS4, I just purchase it on Switch. I try to keep where my Switch library is unique, and I know I can't get them ever on PS4.
Yeah.
Even though I do have some duplicates, I know I did that when I went to New York, went to Rochester last year. It was me, you know, on this 10-hour car trip that I wasn't driving, I'm like, well, I'm going to get some of the games I do have on my PS4 on there because I can play those on there and they'll be portable. But once I got back, weirdly enough, I installed them and I just stick with my normal Switch library. Those are my travel games, and if I go to New York again in July, I'll re-download them before, so I have them ready to go. But for the most part, I keep that separate. But like I said, I think...
Yeah, I got a little DS. I still don't even really hardly take anything. I brought a Switch when I went... actually, we went to Gatlinburg last time. I think I brought a Switch because I was playing Animal Crossing at the time.
Yeah.
And I was logging in and taking care of my stuff. And I have a DS, 3DS. But like, I just want to play Mario and shit on it. And I'll take it because the battery life's good and stuff. But
Well, I tell you what I found interesting about the Switch recently is I always go onto the store and I always say, hey, what's coming soon, right? I love the coming soon page on there. And I was surprised to see on the Switch that they're putting the PC RPG Shadowrun out on it. That was a big hit for that. And not just that, they're putting that and all the expansions out at the same time. You can get like a big version or you can get it separate. And I sat there and thought, like, yeah, I was a big Shadowrun fan. I was like, you know, when that came out on PC, I was like, oh, it's never going to be on consoles. It's coming to Switch. And I was going like, what? And then, of course, Metroid Prime
And
4
see,
is in the pipeline. I'm like, oh, they're doing another Prime. I was like,
and
man.
Microsoft makes a lot of those bridges too. I mean,
Yeah.
seemingly, like a lot of those PC-centric games, sometimes
Yeah.
they'll make their way over. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not as much as I would like still, but like the Flight Simulator,
Yeah. Yeah.
the newest one that looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
They put it on the series and
And
stuff.
that's cool.
So I like things that do that. I tell you, so I make my primary library the PS as well.
Yeah.
And for the most part, truthfully, I swear I do it because of the controller. Because, you haven't even played PS5, right?
No.
I'm telling you, this dual sense controller thing. It sounds so gimmicky, but it is so cool when games use it.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference. Like,
Yeah.
just to, the quick example of playing Call of Duty, and like every gun's trigger feels different.
That's cool.
Right?
Which is how it would
the amount
be.
of pressure it takes to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It's different. There's resistance there, real resistance. Or like
I think that's neat because
playing
that's
Spider-Man, you feel the difference in your web slinging, like as you play.
yeah.
And it's another level of immersion, right? So like,
Yes. That's what I was going to say.
Native PS5 games, they utilize that almost always.
I think that's great because that's, again, like you said, that immersion, it brings you more into the game world. And I've always been like, it's one of the things that we talked about, like when me and Troy a long time ago talked about why he liked like Battlefield 3, but he really liked Bad Company. He couldn't figure out what the difference was. And when I played Bad Company 2 or whatever, I said, Bad Company 2's guns and the weight of when you move is different than 3. Not that 3 doesn't have that, but 2 had, because 3 came out and they were trying to compete with COD, so it has a more, even though there's the bullet drop and it is realistic, it has a more arcadey like added things to it, where Bad Company 2, and that was immersion. And so like to see that on a controller and them doing that, I think is brilliant. And that's again just something that they do.
The haptic feedback too.
Yeah.
And like, it's not just rumble anymore, and you'll feel just things like move across the controller. Right.
That's cool. That's very neat. Yeah. And that's again, that's that immersion.
The neat little demo thing that kind of comes with it. It's I forget the name of it, but it's those little PlayStation robot things you have now, and I can't. There's a little thing you kind of play through, and you're moving through these different things, and it's really, it's designed as a kind of a showcase of this controller features, right? But
yes,
like you can rattle things around in your controller, and like it just sounds like there's really little things in there, and you can feel the feedback. And
that's very cool.
I don't know. It's just really cool stuff they're doing with it. So it's part of the reason why I make PlayStation my central console. And I guess with the previous generation, there's so many games that I still will play through or pick up, and I just keep it that way, my ever-growing PlayStation library. But I do hate, however, hate this new. I guess it's kind of not new, but don't really hear too much about it, but PlayStation censorship of games, though.
Yeah,
where'd that come from?
Yeah,
what the hell?
That whole censorship thing has been a hot button for me because they never did it before. They realized, because they basically effectively like just fucking crushed it with the PS4. They realized that so many kids and so many families now and so many people have these in their household. They decided that the censorship thing is because they're like, well, you know what? We better do this now because there's a lot of our player base is under a certain age, and they just kind of just went that route, which is weird. That excuse me, that Nintendo said, "Fuck it, we don't care. We don't give a shit." Like it's like, and it's so. And the funny thing about that is, it's like, and then they like. I have I love dungeon crawlers, right? And I just love them. I've always liked them. There's so many now. They're popular again, thank God. But there's one called Mary Skelter series, and one's on the Switch, and Yeah, like it's like don't let the kids walk in playing this. This is anime. It's very, I mean, like overtly fan service. You're like, yeah, this probably really should be censored, but it's not. Now they just put the last one in the series on the PS4. Oh yeah, forget it. It's heavily censored. So it's like I don't. And the funny thing is, if you go back and you play like
Which
the
one's
first,
that?
second,
What's
third.
the name of the movie?
It's Mary Skelter. I don't know what it is on PS4, what it's called, but it just came out. The other games are not on there. It might be in
There's that
Japan, but
one,
not.
I forget the name of it. It's really censored. That Martha's Dead, I think.
Yeah, they
Is that
censored
related,
that.
or is that?
No, it's totally different. Totally different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that
'Cause that's the big one that's
yeah.
kind of making the thing now.
Yeah.
It's been censored.
And
Like some of those things, like there's the scenes are still in there, but you can't. They're not interactive anymore.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Interestingly enough,
ESRB's supposed
yeah,
to be for.
that's what it's for. It's just to let you know. Like they just put out a game, an indie company. It's called Tormented Souls. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
this, and it plays a lot like
Cool.
it plays like RE, but the tank controls that it looks like it has, it doesn't. Like you what
okay.
direction you go, even if it's in that weird camera angle. So if you're hitting up in the weird camera angle, you still move forward. So it's a little different. Interestingly enough, the very beginning of that game, which I'm thinking about getting, but I watched gameplay. It's like she wakes up, she's missing an eye, she's in a tub naked, and she's got like a hose in her mouth, like a ventilator, and like you see her goods, and they don't censor it at all. So it's like, I don't know if that's an indie thing and it's slipped through, but for the most part, Sony has been, if you go back and like some of their early games, like the first, second, third year games, they didn't go back and censor those. They can't. So that stuff is fine. But now, in the last 2-3 years, it's been censored. And it's like, it's
and it's
weird.
Kind of weird
yeah,
too with some
it's
of that. 'Cause
weird.
like,
yeah,
like you say,
yeah.
like that has nothing. There's other games like that there is nudity or something on. But then you get I don't know the name of it, I forget, but it's one of those visual novels from Japan that was imported over, and it's on Switch and PlayStation. It doesn't even really show anything. Like it's like just some cleavage or something. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it is pretty revealing, but there's no technically not nudity, right?
Yeah.
And they just blurred the shit out of it on PlayStation.
Yeah.
But Nintendo's fine.
Yeah, they don't even
And,
care.
I don't know. So I hate that. So that kind of thing is one of the things I pay attention to because I'm not, if I can help it, I won't knowingly buy a censored game if I have another option. 'Cause I just can't stand it. That's like buying the clean version of a CD for me.
Yeah, like what's the point?
So
And the
I like
idea
my
of the
cussing and nudity and whatever else.
it goes to show you that even though there's this rating system, I guess it didn't really matter, right? Like it's like for Sony's like, well, we don't care because I get that that there's kids, but that's a whole another thing. But your kids are playing something they shouldn't. That's on the parents to make that informative decision, and it's not up to the company to say we're just going to censor everything because X number percentage is more under this certain age. But I look at it like, at the same time, right, just to kind of throw this out there, go at any time of the day and go play Soul Calibur 6 and go to the creative player where you can download people's shit. You should see some of the stuff that people are making up there on there. It's like there was one where I was showing Desiree and my and her sister, my sister-in-law, Destiny, this chick that was orange, that someone put splooge on her mouth, and then there was a dog, like one of the things that you can just kind of put in the game, this dog, and it was like a bulldog with a giant fucking dick going in her butt, and she's just staying there, and I'm going, and she's like basically nude, and I was like, what she's wearing, and because you can do that with creative player, it's not censored at all, because I guess it's creative player,
Makes sense.
right? So it's like, I mean, even now, if you go, people figure out ways around it, but generally speaking, there's that general censorship that they can control, and you scratch my head going like, weird, because the player base for Switch is still the same demographic, and yet they're like, meh, whatever, we don't care. It doesn't matter. We're just going to show it all.
And yeah, and it's just so weird what people latch on to complain about. Like, so there's this new thing going around, and I'm only going to mention it because it is based off of a video game. But Netflix, they did a series on Cuphead.
Yeah.
Right. So you're familiar with Cuphead, right?
Yeah, that's that really like neat 1930s cartoon looking thing, but it's very difficult. Yeah.
It's insanely hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so, and it's cool for like retro gamer stuff. But man, like I'll do like a boss at a time, and then I'm done. Like it's mentally exhausting.
It's a small dose game. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, story wise, it's basically about Cuphead and his friend or whatever. They make a deal with the devil.
Yes, which I've seen the beginning.
Casino.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, you're just kind of trying to get your soul back, really, because he wants other souls instead of yours.
Yeah.
Now, any marketing you see, anything, its tagline is "Don't deal with the devil," and I like Cuphead merchandise, by the way.
Yeah, it's actually really neat. I've seen some of that.
I got like cups all over the house, whatever. Everything says "Don't deal with the devil." So the new thing people are raising hell about, and it's no pun intended, by the way. So the Christian group, big heavy Christian group, is mad because it's centered around kids, and it has the devil, features the devil, and making light of it and stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the main thing is don't deal with the devil. Like, that's
like
the
don't deal
moral
with it.
lesson.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to complain about Cuphead?
Yeah, when it actually is telling you not to do something, right?
And I don't know, it's just and it's
oh my
not paying
God.
attention to the content.
I mean,
really is the problem.
It's the same old argument. Senator fucking Makalaka Fuckahead is like bitching about violence in video games causes, like, no, it doesn't. There's no evidence to the contrary. There's a million people who play. No. And you just, no. That's just fitting someone's agenda. That's this. I mean, and again, if you want to cite examples, like, I didn't see them getting up in arms over Dante's Inferno when it came out, right? Yeah. So, and that's like, what the hell, right? It's like,
you're playing this game and there's a big giant, like Medusa kind of lady in the background with like spiders coming out of her nipples.
Yeah, it's like, and it's very much like where, he kind of did deal with it. Yeah, okay, so it's, again, it's another one of those examples of, video games getting that kind of treatment from those groups for no reason. And like me and my beautiful fiance this morning sat and talked for a couple hours. We were having coffee, talking about how you have this woke movement and now it permeates all media, including my games. And and again, I have zero problems with any group or any game company or any media putting it in the game or the movie or whatever, if it's smartly done, if it's done in a way that is like, this is who this person is, their beliefs or whatever they are, and that's fine. But it's not a broadcastable thing. Don't put it in there for the sake of putting it in there so that some group somewhere, someplace might get mad that you didn't, when they're not. They have so much bigger fish to fry. So I look at it like that idea with Cuphead, it's telling you don't deal, and they're all like, oh, wait a minute, you're telling kids? No, we're not. And that game, there's not a 10-year-old on this planet that could play that game and for 5 minutes without breaking their controller and never playing it again. So I mean, I played it and I was like, fuck,
that too.
I'd rather play Dark Souls.
But
I mean,
I let Nick and his friend play at one point, and they were pretty frustrated with it.
I was looking
at, couldn't beat anybody,
Yeah, and I look at it like,
it's a very cool game.
Yeah, it is. It's very unique looking.
But that was always the thing. Like, we would still kind of talk about it. Like, my son don't know much, but that's the thing. He knows. The tagline is "Don't deal with the devil."
Yeah.
And me, I'm boisterous sometimes. So I've seen like social media, so I had to just. I don't normally jump in that stuff anymore because it's tiresome because it never gets anywhere. But I said something, and then the response was, well, you know, I've seen a couple of scenes myself, and it shows like the devil in the bathtub and stuff, and that's not really an image that we need to be like showing our kids as the devil's this big, white, playful kind of character in the bathtub. I'm like, are you serious though? Because what would you rather have happen? Would you rather a realistic depiction of the devil, images of ripping flesh off of tormented souls and casting people down? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that'd be a whole other conversation.
And then you get into
like,
the whole point. The devil is
in a reasonable way.
Yeah,
For kids, and it's a moral tale of don't deal with the devil.
Yeah,
like,
because they've had like cartoons where like Tom had a dream in Tom and Jerry, and there was a big bulldog, and he had horns, and he was putting them in a cauldron of like hot water, and like they have shown depictions in the Warner Brothers cartoons of that before, and nobody really had a problem with it, and it's just that's what we live in today. Is what we're at right now, where it's like, and you got to remember, the devil is not going to look like a fiery horned demon. He's going to look like something beautiful to entice you. He can look like whatever he wants to be, right? So it's like it would make less sense. He'd want to entice you. It should be a beautiful thing, right? Like tempt you and blah blah blah. It's so ignorant. Like people are just ignorant.
It's a silly thing, and it happens all forms of media. And it's always just the arguments never make sense, right? Like
no, they don't.
You know, Eminem, rapper Eminem, right?
Yes.
One of the songs they latched on of being inappropriate, right, was that Monster song.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, I am familiar with that one. Yes.
So it was people getting up in arms because it talks about beating women or whatever. But that's not even really what it's about, first off.
No.
Like, if you really pay attention to it, it's about being against domestic violence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they just cite this line that he says. But, like, it's in the frame of a character telling a story.
Yes. Yes.
And it's about against domestic. And Rihanna, was a victim of that with Chris Brown all that stuff.
Yes, she was, yes.
And, she's in there, and, like, she loved the empowerment of that song.
Yeah.
So, it's just not paying attention to what you're complaining about. And even still, if you're going to complain about Eminem, there's way more songs.
Well, see,
like, are you kidding me? That's the one you picked?
Yes, that's the one that you, exactly. You know what's funny, though, is in the video game world, for many years, and it's always been, people, especially games, you pointed this out, is like the YouTube people. It's like, nobody can be satisfied enough with a game no matter how good it is. They got to figure out some way to say, well, we gotta talk shit about it, or we don't like this one thing about it, and that just makes the whole game, oh fuck it, I can't ever play the game because oh my god. And it's like people's expectations and reality are so warped anymore that if it's kind of like the people who still get up in arms. Like, yeah, I'm disappointed in what they're doing with Babylon's Fall, but I'm not up in arms about it, whatever, right? It's kind of like, but it's a byproduct. That's the way things are now. And people go like, well, oh my God, I can't believe they did this. I'm like, how do you still, 8-9 games later, still are mad about the exact same thing? Because that's the way it is now. I expect games to have those things now, and when they don't, I'm like, all right. Great, right? But
and I don't even really, I'm in the camp of I don't really care what's in media. I don't care what's in a game. I don't care what's in a movie. I don't care what's in a song. Like it's all of it's art to me. Right?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
When you're on the creation side, you should just form your art the way you want. And like if there's a game that's offensive or whatever, like there's 8 fucking trillion games out there.
Yeah.
Like just don't play that one.
And it's strange because it becomes that whole. And we may have even discussed this at one point enough at times in our gaming history, in our general history. It's kind of like, if you are buying a game, let's say the latest Call of Duty, and you're buying it, and your friends are playing it, and you're enjoying, let's say, regardless of how it reviewed or not, you're enjoying the game, and someone comes along, or several people come along in YouTube and videos, and that say, well, this game sucks, it's fucking horrible. A lot of people will be like, well, I don't want to feel like that what I bought sucks, I spent money on this. So naturally they may want to defend it, but at the same time, it's kind of like everyone's entitled to that opinion. Everyone's entitled to that, and it's kind of like you said, it's art, for good or bad. It's like this is people who created this the way it is. The problem that you see in the gaming world, in the industry in particular at large, is you have the people making the game that want to bring out this artistic vision that they have for it, and a bunch of shareholders getting in the way of that. It's like you can't do that.
About some of those game things. You remember, speaking of Call of Duty, what was it, Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2? But remember, like, you just went in that airport and just shot up a bunch of unarmed
That
people?
was two. That
Like,
was the No Russians level where people were like, "What?"
yeah.
But
Could you imagine if that was in a Call of Duty now, really?
oh
Like,
no,
would
you
they
couldn't
ever
do
get
it.
away with it?
No, not in a million years. And I tell you, what's interesting about that, they were like, "Well, you actually don't have to shoot anybody. Like
Yeah.
you don't. You just walk." But it was really like,
I leveled that whole thing. I don't know.
yeah, like fuck it, right? And that's the thing. It's kind of like that would be some. Well, even back then, it was a very controversial.
It was.
Yeah,
in fairness,
and
But
which
now I
is
just don't
weird.
even think they would leave it in. I think.
Yeah,
it
they
would be
just
cut.
it would be completely like we can't do that because we don't want to offend. And again, it all goes to the thought of we're worried that somebody somewhere might say something or sue us, and instead we will do this. We'll put this type of character, or we'll put this kind of thing, or we'll take it out because we don't want that to happen, even though other groups and people are not giving a shit about your fucking game at all. They're not looking at that to make a political statement on. So it's one of the issues, like I said. And speaking of COD, let's go into, and I'm going to ask you this question and give me maybe your input on it, because, and this is a little off topic, but it kind of gets into the game industry and games and companies and live service and different changes. Man, Battlefield 5, dude, they fucking shit the bed horribly on this game. With they didn't do the scoreboard, they didn't do certain things. It was sort of classless, and they changed a lot of this game, and the player base, they lost like 95% of the base, and people are like up in arms and very angry with the changes that DICE and EA made to the game. And how do you take this? Because there is a lot of hate spewing at the latest Battlefield and DICE and EA and the changes they've been made.
So, because you said 5, but you're talking about the 20...
24, not 5, I meant
2042.
2042. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. I meant 2042, yes.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I think it's a victim of... I hate even saying it, but I think it's partially a victim of COVID. And they tried to put it out anyway. And it's kind of a shame because it was... and we've talked about this a little bit, but, it's a modern Battlefield, which I feel like we needed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, I don't know, just nobody's responding to it.
Interestingly enough, it makes you wonder, it's the same people, and you think, Battlefield 4 was very, very successful. They know what to do to make it very successful. It has the scoreboard, it has the competitive nature, it has the classes. People like that. Battlefield 2042, a few years later, they're like, all the stuff that people like, we take out. And we're not even going to let you do team voice chat because we don't want people to be like mean on the mic. And that's a very interesting. Again, it goes back to what you're saying with the censorship. Like, you're basically saying we didn't add team chat because we're worried that someone might say, well, you this and that, and cuss somebody out or say things they shouldn't. That's very bad. And someone could get offended. Yeah, exactly. But the point is like, for them to take out some of the things that makes Battlefield a competitive shooter, it's fascinating that is where they're at with it. Unfortunately, the problem is it pretty much screwed them over financially, and it didn't sell well. They lost 95% of their player base. I just want to know, since you have played all the Battlefields. I have 5. I have 1. I have 3. I have 4. I have Hardlines. I have. I'll get in the mood to play some Battlefield and play it for a while, and it's like I didn't buy this one, but I didn't know if you had a different take on it, because we all know what everybody is saying online. We all know the problems, not just the bugs, but like the problems.
I think now I haven't personally enjoyed a Battlefield like immensely anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've gotten enjoyment out of it kind of since then, but and I hate to just use it as a shining example all the time, but Bad Company 2, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I really liked when they did the Vietnam thing. That was super good.
Yeah, that was neat.
It was
yeah.
very much like similar gameplay wise.
Yeah.
And past that, there's still been some good iterations, but I really think what's changed for them is they started trying to make it like Call of Duty instead of keeping its identity.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Because like there's certain differences, and I don't know. I don't know if I think it's a combination of those choices and then just how gamers are now.
Yeah.
Because people play differently too.
Yes.
But maybe if you didn't make it more like Call of Duty, you would get rid of those type of players.
It's interesting.
Right? It's a very distinct kind of thing, right? Because Battlefield has its roots in PC games that was more about simulation and slow gameplay.
Yeah.
Right. Not like racing to whatever, but you're playing it more tactical. You're doing that, but they've done steps to make it more accessible or more like a Call of Duty style, faster kind of thing. I think, and I think it's just kind of forgotten who it was. I think if I had to sum up anything, that's what I would say.
No, that's a good.
I think Battlefield was at its best when it was, more about that slow simulation and boringly taken, however long to reach the action, right? But that was what was cool about it, because your death meant something. You couldn't just jump right back in where you were.
Yeah, because
you had to take your time. You had to not get killed, and not everybody played a fucking sniper.
Yeah, and Battlefield 4 in particular started introducing like, we have the team deathmatch, we have the smaller conquest maps. Even though Battlefield was always about the large, we instead of having 5 or 6 points to take over, we'll do 3. And it's kind of like you're chasing COD, and at the same time, COD was trying to like increase their map size and do Battlefield like. It's so fascinating that the two people were trying to one up each other, and it's like COD suffered from large maps and adding things, vehicles, and now you got Wars of Giant Map and different things. And then
they're trying to beat each other.
Yeah, and it's like they're both like hurting in the process, right? Which is a shame, because
it's a greed thing, right? Because Call of Duty obviously always sell way better than Battlefield. It was that was the king, right? And but it's like they wanted to get the Battlefield players roped in somehow, and then the Battlefield wanted to get
rope in the COD players.
Call of Duty, and I just think that's what happened.
And I always said this about the series, and I think you hit it. They're chasing something they didn't need to. Where I look at, like, outside of them both being military shooters, right? That's the only thing they had in common. Battlefield played very, very, very different than COD, and vice versa.
Not quite Arma.
Yeah, but it's kind of like one's more arcadey, Twitch mechanics, almost Unreal Tournament, very fast, kill, spawn, go. And Battlefield was more about tactics, strategy, looking at the whole playing field, spotting things, more realistic. And when one or the other decided to say, well, we just need to be the king of the shooters, and I think it was the players, the communities, that did the more COD versus Battlefield thing, not so much the companies. And that's where I think, I'm with you. You look at 2042 and you're like, why didn't they put a scoreboard? And the scoreboard doesn't show the deaths and stuff. And the only logical conclusion was, we don't want people to feel bad if they suck. You know, it's like we're not going to do classes per se, and you're like
goofy stuff too, right?
Yeah.
And that again, community driven, because back in some of those, like, at least the way I played it, and like many of the people played back then that I played with, Bad Company Airs, it wasn't about kills at all.
No.
Right? Like, you actually scored more points being a better team player,
Yeah,
getting flags and helping out your squad than you did getting kills. And like, and if you did play a sniper, like you really, it was more about watching your team's back, making crucial kind of
a support
things.
class, yeah.
And like you get like 1 or 2 kills a match, but like you really made a difference.
Being in spot and doing
and
things.
Like, and that was so satisfying, because that's a little bit more realistic,
And the core thing,
and 40 kills or whatever. That's
and the you're like outdoing like Chris Kyle, who was the greatest sniper, outside of the White Russian guy, the White Death guy. But Battlefield was interesting because you could play Battlefield. You could say, okay, well, I'm going to be a medic and I'm going to do this, and then you die. And then you die, and you're like, I'm going to just get in the jets, and you could have a completely different experience on the same map every time you played it for the duration of that game, and that's what to me was the appeal. I could play this class, but then I'll jump in I'll do this, and I can switch. You could play one map. You could play like Caspian Border, Battlefield 3, and play different roles throughout the game, that game cycle, and it would feel different every time. COD was very much a much more, in my opinion, highly competitive game, but 2042, knowing that Battlefield 2042 took out a lot of things and did things, and people were very unhappy with it. And again, logically, I looked at it like, well, Battlefield 2042, the only reason that they took certain things out in the voice chat and stuff is, again, it goes back to your censorship. The company saying, well, we're worried that some rando person in your party starts saying bad things to you, calling you names, and we don't want that. And we don't want it. We don't. Yeah, and we don't want the kill death like scoreboard on there because we don't want people to feel bad. And a lot of people think, well, why did they do that? Well, if you go all the way back to it, even now, and while Star Wars Battlefront 2 that DICE made is a much better game than it ever took 2 years, but doing things, one of the things that they did put in the game is a person who got 20 kills, or let's say 40 kills and a bunch of assists or whatever, could earn X amount of credits, right, in the game for unlocks. The guy in the bottom that sucked would earn the same or close to the same amount of credits. So you're like, well, shit, the unlocks are basically the same, because it went back to, we want everyone to feel like they're successful, right? We don't want people to feel left out. But that in turn, with Battlefield and even with COD, it's kind of like you're sort of like forcing people to be like, yeah, if you're good or not, it doesn't matter. And because these are competitive games, so I just wanted to hear what your take is, because it does go back to that censorship stuff. It does go back to this model, because Battlefield 2042, in my opinion, was trying to throw some live service elements in there, and we've been talking about that, where it's kind of like, they have a content roadmap. And you're like, why? You know.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's just a handful of things like that, and they try to just mix stuff up too much. Like, you're not going to be the best sniper, the best mechanic, the best engineer, or whatever, all in the same match.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what it's meant to be in the Battlefield.
Because you made them,
or what it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember some of those matches we played? And like, I would play medic, and I wouldn't get any kills, but I'd have
medic ribbons. Yeah. Because you healed and you.
Because I was playing my role, right? I wasn't trying to just be, a super soldier over here,
Yeah, you weren't Captain America running around. You were playing your role.
You can do that in like Call of Duty, and that's kind of what it's meant for. And I think, like I said, it really just ultimately comes down to, I feel that Battlefield has lost its path.
Yeah, no, I agree because
forgot its identity.
in 2042 they call the characters specialists, so they have
Yeah, which is
defined
ripped straight out of Call of
yeah,
Duty.
which Call of Duty. So I'm like, that's just not good. And I'm going to tell you what's funny. I think right now it's on sale for like $11. So you're like, wow, that's a significant sale, and the game just basically came out, and it's already on
Well,
sale
they were
for
talking about going
nothing.
free to play. So.
Yeah, they were talking about that, but it's interesting if you think about that. And if they do go free to play, then again, now you're definitely turning more into to what the free to play games. You're gonna add premium currency, and there's going to be issues there. So you're turning, and again, losing your way. And I mean, I remember, all of us, Troy, you, me, Johnny, were all playing, Mark to some extent, all playing, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. We spent hours, and it was, and I wasn't the best at the game,
Being a
and
team and playing
yeah,
all
and
roles
just,
and stuff.
Troy would spot things, you would do this. I was playing assault, and I'd come in this way from far away to get the flag and run out of there, and it's just, they just, like you said, I believe, and I agree with you, they just lost the plot. That's like
Yeah.
they know
And
how
in some
what
ways,
work. Yeah,
in some ways, Call of Duty Warzone is more Battlefield than what Battlefield is now.
yeah, which is sad. It shouldn't
Because
be
me
that
and Nick,
way.
he really wanted to kind of get into that. So me and him got into it for a bit, and I was
Yeah,
playing a realistic type of sniper in a sense. So
yeah,
I did that when I could, and it's a
yeah.
little harder. And you're killing, parachuting in,
And you're right.
battle royale type of stuff. But
Yeah,
it was, and it felt more like because it uses, like the global servers and stuff, and I don't know, just the way the bullet drop and like you kind of a little bit of delayed of some of this. Like it reminded me of Battlefield for whatever reason.
yeah. Well, they got the Cold War. Black Ops came out, and it's now, though, interestingly enough, Activision, even outside this merger, they're talking about not putting a COD out every year, like every
Yeah.
couple of years. They're saying maybe we shouldn't put one out every year.
The 2023 one's now been delayed. There's not going to be one in 2023.
And that's good, because I think that's what Ubisoft had to do with Assassin's Creed to make it successful again. Like putting one out every 11 months is ridiculous, So, and I find it interesting that, again, this all ties back into the beginning of this table talk, which is this live service model, the greediness of these companies, the stuff that's not working, which is a lot of it, and the fact that they're going down this route trying to find something that works. And I just feel like DICE and others, like you lost the plot. Like you talk about when you apologize, and they always say the same thing. This isn't what we thought it was going to be. We're sorry. We blah. It's always the same apology. It's like they cut and paste it. All the companies do. I'm like, don't be sorry. Just what works and what doesn't. You know what we want before the game. You're working on it. You ask for all this feedback. You get feedback from betas, and then you act like, well, we know. We hear you. We hear you. Well, you don't, obviously, because you obviously don't know what we want in the play or what we want. And then, interestingly enough, some indie game might come out that's not $60 and blows up, and everybody's playing it, and those big companies just scratch their head like, well, I don't understand, because they value our time and they actually do listen to what we're doing. And I could
And it's the same repeat offenders too. Man.
Yeah, it's always the same repeat offenders, and at some point, that's going to make EA and other companies. And again, one of the things I think I said on the last video, it's like, it's funny that one of the very egregious companies out there, Ubisoft, and I own a ton of their games. It's their games conceptually always make me go, man, I really would like to play that. And then I'll get into it for a while, and I'm like, it's like they're doing this, doing that. I mean, I think, God, for weeks on end, I played Watch Dogs Legion, for like every day. Like, that game just captivated me because it was such a different kind of open world game, And even though we've talked about like everything's open world now, every fucking thing, you know, so it's like I just feel,
Madden's probably going open world.
yeah, I'm waiting, you know, but it's like it's just so silly. But like again, I
say
think
that as a joke,
yeah.
but like literally, you know, NBA 2K, you got like the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and then it's like the city now, and like
the country,
like, world, you know.
Yeah, I just it's like okay, you know, I find myself, you know, like, you know, now that we're so much more informed about things coming out, and I'm glad that I was able to, and to be honest with you, I'm very glad I got to play the Babylon's Fall demo and see if it lets me go, okay, that was an entry point. You can carry your character over. You just buy the game. There you go. There's your save, your character, and I tell myself this is good because I know now if I do decide to buy it, I know what I'm getting into. You know, the demo helps, and I wish more games would put demos out. They just don't. So you kind of left to people, yeah.
So that's a good thing to go into because PlayStation, you know, in I guess response to Game Pass, you know, they're working on trying to kind of compete with that. So did you see they just did like it was like 3 tiers? They're gonna be doing the PS Plus service.
Yeah, I've heard about this. I haven't looked into it, but I've heard.
And I gotta read again, so I might butcher the basic thing. But basically, like the base level is kind of like what we got now, and there's, you know, monthly kind of games coming out.
Yeah.
Then there's a higher up tier that gives you access to more stuff, and then the third tier is kind of even more stuff, but like in like the PS Now, it integrates it somehow.
Okay.
But one of the things it mentioned, though, the reason for saying that is I think they're toying with the idea of potentially doing like timed kind of demos for games if you're on one of the higher levels like that.
Okay.
So that'd be kind of cool. I mean, games that don't really they don't release an actual demo. Like maybe you could play it for so many hours or whatever.
Yeah, I can see that. I think a lot of the games, there are some games currently on PS4 where the demo is timed and they let you play it so long and then, hey, thanks for playing and you're done. You can never get it again. I will say this though, there has been a lot of times where I'm like, you know, I'm interested in buying a game. I mean, YouTube is my biggest source. I'll like watch, you know, Pixel Opinions or Noisy Pixel Game Cross just to see reviews or just to see gameplay, just so I can make that informative decision on a game. I love when they do bring demos out. I played this not tactical, but turn-based JRPG Relayer that's coming out, and it's a mech game. And you position your guys, you attack. They do these really cool cinematic attacks. It's very straight out of a Gundam style kind of game. And I played the demo, and I said, you know what? This game's really cool. What I can play of it so far, and it's very anime. I was like, but I don't think it's worth $60 because I think it's a $30 game. So I was like, I would like to have it, but not at that price. I have a tendency to every couple of weeks just go look at the demos and see what's available, and it's helped me make those more informative decisions. But that would be,
I haven't played a demo since probably Anthem.
Yeah.
And that's not even, you know, it's a beta, I guess.
Yeah, but that's a nice,
basically a demo.
That's a nice thing if they're going to do something like that, because if you're going to let me, like, if you make it where I can try any game, because I have that third tier for, let's say, a day.
I don't know if that's what's happening.
Yeah, but if they did it right, and let's say you have this game you can play for 5 hours, and then do you want to purchase it or not? You know,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because there was a lot of games on the 360 that you could download, and if you liked it, it's a unlock game, and you could just unlock it. Yeah, yeah, and I liked that because it let me. And I got some really good games out of that by just checking them out. Like I would download 5 or 6 of them, right, and then check them all out. And sometimes I'd like, you know what, I really like this. What was the game? There's a Dungeons and Dragons game on there that's a action RPG.
There's quite a few.
And it was good. And I played that after I got the little trial. And I just said I loved it so much. I said unlock the full game, and I did. And I played that for weeks. It was great. Like it's still a game when I turn on my 360. I'll end up. I usually fire it up and play. It's still a fun game to me. So it's nice if they're going to do that. If they do it right, because they probably won't. You know. But I would love to see that.
So we gotta start moving, wrapping up here. I think.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a couple of things we'll talk about real quick. So speaking of that time thing, and it kind of leads to one thing that we said we were going to talk about, which is Cyberpunk.
Yes, we need to talk about Cyberpunk.
Its new update, of course, came out. And real quick about that part, with that, I think you can play it for 5 hours.
Yes, you can.
Like a 5-hour demo, right?
Yes, which is going to give you a good base of solid of what to expect out of the game. Which I feel in the first, if you played it the first 5 hours, you're going to be able to do a lot in the game mission wise, unless you just feel like fucking
carries over too.
Yeah, which is nice. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been playing the game since launch, so have you. We did that video together on Cyberpunk, and even though, yes, the game had issues and stuff, I was fortunate to not experience a whole lot of that on the PS4, here and there, yes, and I agreed with that, but I loved the art style and aesthetics of the world. Now with the big update, I went back in, I was like, oh, this is great. I can go to the mirror and change the look of my character's hair or whatever I want to do. I thought that was great. Just that little thing made me go, cool, I'm not stuck with the same look all the time. The cars were reworked, and I started driving around. I was like, you know, this kind of, it's quite not on that level, but it felt more like a GTA style of car physics or feeling. It was better to
floaty.
It feels better to drive. You can do a lot more in the cars. I loved that. And just all the other little quality of life stuff they did, because I looked up everything it did, and then of course the splash page tells you, and I was like, wow, like this is vastly, like much more. Like I realized it said, oh, there's better NPC pathing, so I was like, I'm gonna follow some people around. Now you go up to people, it's more likely they'll say something. It's just very good quality of life stuff, even for the PS4. And I'm like, wow, like this is, it doesn't necessarily change the entire game where it's like, oh, it's an all new game. No, but it is closer to what I guess was promised, or the vision that CD Projekt Red was trying to do. So this update, to me, is fantastic. Hats off to them to sticking with this game after all the shit that it's been through. It's playing with the new stuff in place. I have found weapons I hadn't seen before. You know, oh wow, there's much more gear. They even changed one of the aspects of the skill trees. And it's like, this is all much better of a game, like much better. It's running very good.
And, you know, my experience, of course, has been solely PS5.
Yeah.
At launch, I put on PS5, playing it through backwards compatibility, and it really wasn't that bad. Like, it was good. It was actually okay. I take it back, because it wasn't on PlayStation. I got it on the Series X.
Yeah.
But same principle in a way, right?
Yeah.
Now, I had it pre-ordered on PS4. Got the PS5, which of course still had it pre-ordered.
Yes.
With all those delays and all that back then.
Yes.
I really got it on the Xbox because there was that exploit to where you could change your region and play it 8 hours early.
Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't have anything to do that day. It was like a work day, you know, and didn't schedule anything. So I just got it on Xbox and changed my thing and played it all day.
Very good.
And it was really stable for me then. On that. And at the time, that was said to be kind of the best version to play it on. And it wasn't a true next-gen version in that case, but it did have some enhancements that the other ones didn't have. It was the closest to a next-gen as you could get.
Okay.
So it was pretty stable, but then there were still some glitches here and there, and I would get stuck in areas and have to quit and reload. And it wasn't terrible. Like, it was inconvenient, but it wasn't.
No.
I didn't, like, get so mad and decide I didn't want to play it or anything. So, you know, I had told you because I'm a fan of like lore books and just
Yes.
things like that, right? And I love the aesthetic of cyberpunk.
Yeah,
So
I do too.
all this time later, I had got that big giant collector's edition they
Uh huh.
had with the statue and stuff, and I'd order it off eBay for like half the price or
Hmm.
something. You know, it's not what it came out at.
Yes.
Now, intentionally did the PS4 version of it because I'm like, well, I have a copy on Xbox, so if I'm going to buy it again for this edition, I'll just get the PS4 one.
Okay. Yeah.
So now this update comes out, which entitles me to the PS5 one.
Nice.
So of course, talking about like with the haptic feedback and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that,
Uh-huh.
I've decided to just start all over, but on the PS5 version.
Okay.
So, and you know, the biggest benefits, of course, has been covered a billion times everywhere. But you know, you can do a version of ray tracing in it. You can do your 60 frames a second. The only, of course, the dual sense trigger stuff, you
Yes.
know, that kind of stuff. It's utilized. The only bigger thing that really is tied to next gen is like denser crowds and stuff in the
Yes.
city.
Yes.
Kind of feel more lived in, but it's just such a feels like so much more of a solid experience now. Like you're not
That's good.
waiting for it to crash or blow up.
Like I
When
said,
you play the game now.
I like
So
the fact of what they have done to it. And more importantly, I like when game companies, even outside of fixing bugs, when instead of just focusing on that, when they do these quality of life, some QOLs, if you will, into the games to make them better. Ubisoft did that with Watch Dogs Legion, because while you can play as anybody in the game, they did make it where you could go back to your different bases and change any of your characters' hairstyles, clothing, all of it. So every character you unlock as part of your team, you could truly customize them however you want. That was not in at launch, and then they changed that. I thought that was a nice touch. But to go back to Cyberpunk, that's the first thing I did. I went to the mirror. I'm like, oh, cool. I can change my hair. I can change all these aspects. So if I want to look different, that's great. I love the enhancements to the gunplay. I love the enhancements to driving around Night City. I like the fact that they changed the pathing of citizens. Things are much feels more like I'm in this big city with all these people. They added a lot more spots and things to do in Night City. If you notice, they even changed the map, like the UI map. Like when you're looking, the way it zooms, it shows the districts. It's like, that is so much better. It doesn't look convoluted. It's all
It was a
that.
mess.
Yeah. Oh my God. You'd be like, what am I looking at? But it's so nice that they added all that quality of life stuff to this game, that I'm very happy that CD Projekt Red, as much shit as they got for this game, and yes, they were deceptive in some ways and different things they did to hide certain things because they knew it wasn't ready. But the thing is, I'm glad that they stuck with it. They said they were going to stick with it. They were going to do what they promised, even if they had no money coming in. They were going to do it. They did so far, and they've made good on that. And so going back into my Cyberpunk now, it's like, man, this is really good. I'm playing it now, and I just love all that quality of life stuff. I think that just made all the difference in the game, and especially like just walking around bumping into people. And before, you know, sometimes they would just look at you and they'll say, "Well, talk," and they just wouldn't say anything. And it's like, okay, well, and now I don't have those things are gone. I love walking around and following an NPC from place to place and go like, okay, so now these people have a more or less Watch Dogs Legion, kind of like they go from place to place, a good pathing.
Their own agenda.
Yeah, the police in the game have been very much improved on the wanted level and how things happen, and it's closer to GTA's wanted meter. So again, this update that CD Projekt Red did, I mean, you know, thank you. Just a big thank you for taking, no matter how bad off it did, if it sold or didn't or what happened, it's like you're making good on promises that you said you would make, and this update really, to me, was like, after I could jump back in, I was like, man, this is exciting. This is great. Like, I am thoroughly enjoying the game, like thoroughly. Like, I was
And I don't
liking
even
it.
think, they're not done, I don't think.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're actually
It's such
still.
an anticipated and wanted game for so many people. It's
Yeah.
such a cool subject matter and so much potential, but a very different route for
Yeah.
them. And whatever the reasons are, and it happened, and it ended up being a really incredibly rough launch. I'm kind of glad to see them kind of getting, for the most part, a well-received kind of redemption.
Yes.
Much like
Yeah,
No
see,
Man's Sky.
yeah, No Man's Sky. Yeah, because Hello Games now is kind of like, well, they went dark, they went quiet, they weren't saying anything. People hated this game, and again, Sean Murray claims, lies, or whatever you want to call it, for the most purpose. He decided, I'm just going to clam up, and we're going to just put this stuff out. They did. They buckled down. No Man's Sky has got this ginormous player base. I mean, this crazy number of people playing it.
Still going.
Yeah, and it's been effectively redeemed, and I'm glad Cyberpunk CD Projekt Red is doing the same, because they were a darling company. Witcher 3, if you've never played, is probably one of the top 5 best RPGs ever, and because it is that good. Its story, its mission structure, it's just so good. And I know a lot of people will. It's just one of those things. It's like, I am happy that they did this update. I'm happy they stuck with it. And so Cyberpunk, to me, and again, exciting things in the future. CD Projekt Red wants to do like a Night City Online, kind of like how GTA's online. Like, you make a character, and everybody can kind of do stuff in the open world. I'm like, hey, great, right? Like, please, that's amazing if they end up going that route. If they do, they may not, because it's a lot of work still, but this update was big, and I think it helped. It showed players they're committed to giving us the vision that they wanted, and I'm excited for what they're going to do the next few updates. What they're going to do, what they're going to add. To me, as far as I'm concerned, the sky's the limit for them right now, and what they're going to be able to do for it. So as long as they support it and keep doing it, keep adding to it more and more and more, it's going to be really good. So yeah, very good, very good. Hats off to them for that. I'll give them 2 thumbs up. So yeah, yeah, man.
All right,
So
we ready to wrap up?
we are ready to wrap this up, but we are going to, we were doing this end question that we have, and I am going to follow. I'm going to have this with question. You were talking about the last question about the systems, and we were talking about our favorite systems, right? And so, and like, what is our all-time whatever, blah blah blah, right? So let us go backwards to. I'm gonna talk about this. Here's the question: is, in the previous console, or even current console, what is a game that you bought, didn't know much about, like kind of on a whim, and it ended up being this like game that didn't get a lot of press or whatever, but you end up going like, wow, this is a game I have to tell people about. This is great. I can't believe nobody's buying this. What's a game for you that you purchased in the last couple of years where you were like, not a COD, not a high profile launch, but something you were like, oh shit, this is crazy good. Like, I can't believe it. This is awesome.
Okay. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got to think about really what you purchased and what you played.
yeah.
Play that game. Okay. Since it's your question, I assume you put a little bit of thought in it.
I have.
How about you start, and I'll have something.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this out here, and this is a PS4 game, and it actually is funny because it's a game that I probably passed on a number of times, even though it looked interesting. It's one of the games that I played during my spooktacular October, thing that I did, and that was the that White Day game from where I was in the school, with the
Yeah, yeah,
Japanese.
yeah.
That game, I saw videos on, I watched different reviews, and the whole time I kept thinking, I don't know about that. That's like, that just looks like it wouldn't be any fun. It doesn't look like a game. It's supposed to be a horror game, but it doesn't seem like it's horror. It just seems like it's, and I passed and passed and passed on it, and even some people were like kind of like thinking, well, this game kind of sucks. It was a PS3 era game. I bought it because I was like, I need some horror games. Fuck it, it's on sale. I'll buy it. Whatever. It's a game that surprised me. It's a game that I continue to play after the Spooktacular. That game scared the bejesus out of me on a number of
It's on sale
occasions.
right now too, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah, it is. I have the everything for it because I got like the deluxe. I paid like $10 for it, but that game was a game that just made me go, holy shit. And there's a couple different endings. There's several, depending on what your character respond. That was a game that I was just surprised at how much the game scared me, how much it played very well. It had really good sound score and atmosphere. The abandoned school thing, which is kind of like been done, it's done in a way that's like the school itself is kind of a character. It kind of turns into that over time. It's got those puzzles. It just has a lot of aspect of survival horror. And while you're only getting chased by like the janitor or the whatever, it's not like you're fighting, a thing's chasing you like a monster. It's interesting. It's just a game that surprised me so much. A lot of the horror games that I played during the month, I knew what I was getting into because I had played them previously. There was a few I bought on the indie. Like Affliction was another game that was like, whoa. But White Day was a game that I really just thought would just be terrible. Like, this is gonna suck. This is gonna be like fucking stupid. And I just ended up really liking the game and thinking to myself, like, wow, like you got to do this and get the ladder and you carry it over there and you got to get in the vent, and it's much more interactive than I thought it was going to be. It's much more atmospheric than I thought it was going to be. It has these interesting puzzles. It has these characters that you kind of like and your motivations behind them, and how the girls kind of try to figure out if you like. It's like, it's Japanese, but kind of has Western flavor to it. It has elements of RE and Silent Hill and old school class. It's just a game that I
Yeah.
was surprised by, and you could tell because some of the outfits
I
in
was
the
too,
deluxe
really,
version,
because
you
like I
get,
said, it was on
yeah,
sale now, and I was like, I was going to the sale, and like I kind of stopped because I seen it on the spectacular thing. So I
yeah,
was, maybe I'll get that one because it was pretty cool.
yeah. It's fun, and the fact that it's a love letter of horror games and horror in general because like one of the outfits you can dress the janitor up is like a Freddy Krueger outfit. One's a Jason outfit. You can dress up one of the girls in like an RE, like Jill Valentine outfit. Like they all have different. That's kind of a nod to those games. So you can tell this small little company really loves that genre and that game. So it's another one of those oddball games that I didn't know jack shit about outside of a couple times I watched some stuff on it and I was like, blah. I just really thought it was going to be like just meh, whatever, crap.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being like, this is way better than I ever thought it was going to be. And it's definitely worth a buy. Absolutely. Absolutely worth a buy. And so that exceeded my expectations, and it's a game that surprised me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's kind of there's some titles that I can kind of almost say, but they kind of feel like cheaters to me, right?
Hmm.
So like I'll gloss over those real quick, and then I'll say my real quick. So
Hmm.
there's things that definitely surprised me, like that Hot Wheels Unleashed, right?
Yeah, I
That
actually want to
came
get
out, and
that
it was
now. Like I'm
amazing.
watching stuff on it. I really
And
want
that's
that
on
now.
sale right now. That's
Yeah,
on sale
I
right
saw
now.
that. Yeah.
Um, so but like it feels cheap answer because it had a buzz, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, everybody's talking about it. I'm gonna give it a try. It'll be great. And that's kind of the same way about some other things, like like I'm a big FMV game fan, right?
Yes,
So like
yes.
some of those I got and they were really awesome, some of my favorites, but it's kind of no surprise because I like that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The one that really like I just kind of thought out on my own, which you know about and like too, but I would have to say is Immortal Realms, that Vampire Worlds.
Yes, that's I ended up buying that on the strength of you telling me about it, and that's a cool game for a
Yeah,
strategy
it's
game.
very
It's
very cool, and it's like it's so different because it's based, it's kind of a card based
mm-hmm.
strategy game,
Mm-hmm.
and it's halfway kind of I don't know, like it's like turn-based combat, but then you have kind of taking over the world part, and you're
Yeah,
playing
which
as
is
other
neat.
clans, and it's just a very different strategy game on all kinds of levels. And then on top of it, it's a vampire game, which there's not a whole lot of, but it's
No, there's not.
vampire in a sense of it. It's cool because it's not just generic vampires. It explores like those different clans and like
Yeah, the
you
Nosferatu,
got
the
the
different lores.
yeah
Yeah.
that and then kind of your like Vladish type of
Mm-hmm.
thing, and yeah, I don't know. That was really now. I remember it being a little more expensive than what I wanted to pay for,
Yeah, I think it
but like
was.
I really wanted to play it
I want
though.
to say it was 50. Like it
Um,
wasn't 60, but it was 50. I think it was 49.
yeah,
And I bought it based on the strength of what you told me. I think the next following paycheck, I just zipped out, put it right in my library. So it was like,
yeah,
I started playing and I was like, this is neat the way you like move your characters here and you take over there, and then you got the cards and it's neat how the cards kind of animate, and it's just a unique game, right? Like
yeah.
it's the
And when you're
story
doing
or the
those
free play,
big,
yeah.
like kind of, I forget what they call it now, but like where you have the whole map though, and it's like
Yeah.
populated with clans, and it's like just such an ongoing back and forth of you taking over manors and you taking over these
Yeah, yeah.
castles and stuff, and then another clan comes behind you, and then they're doing it, and you're trying to keep your forces up, and such a cool game.
Yes, yeah, no, I absolutely 100% agree. It's neat that you found a game like that, surprised you, because when you watch the videos of it, it kind of, again, looks kind of like, me, it's just strategy and whatever. It's atypical, but it isn't.
Yeah,
And that's kind of how the same thing with White Day. It was like, kind of looks like whatever horror game, but it ended up being like, whoa, this is not what I expected. And it's nice to find games that are like that. I'm always happy, hidden gems, so to speak, right? Like you find
yeah,
those, and when you
absolutely.
find them, it's nice because those are games that typically don't get a lot of press, and don't get some of the love they deserve. So one of the things that I did tell Desiree, my fiance, um, about the spectacular thing that I enjoyed so much was so much of those indie titles that just were like, oh, shit. Like Affliction was like legitimately scared the living fucking shit out of me, and it's like I was very on edge playing that. But it's nice. It's very nice to be surprised by by a game like that, and that's a game that I continue to tell people like, oh, White Day's great. Pick it up. It's I mean for whatever, even if it's $20, it's totally worth it because it has,
Yeah. And
New
you
Game
started playing
Plus.
it, and I was kind of like, it's not gonna be nothing, because I don't know, it reminds me of some of this other stuff you've gotten into that I don't really care so much about. But then I was watching it, and then of course, trying to help you figure out how to progress some of that stuff, and I don't know, it has its appeal for sure.
Yeah, it's strange how that works. So I'm already like thinking ahead for the next October spectacular, and looking at horror games already that are coming out, like that Martha is Dead, and there's that Tormented Souls. I'm like, man, that would be a good one. So I'm already looking towards the future for doing that in October. Well, we're going to wrap this up, and again, I can't thank you enough, man, for being in this table talk. I love doing this table talk. I know it goes long, but this is our long broadcast, so we focused a lot in tonight on the live service stuff. We focused in on game companies and their decisions and how they're going one route versus another. And we talked about the greediness and, and we touched base on the cyberpunk thing at the end here, which was, it's good that we got to throw that out there. People need to know, if you haven't played it, go out and buy it now. Now is the time to buy it. Whether you have the older system, the new one, do it, because you're going to be glad that you did, because it's excellent. And
the full game's on sale. So.
Yeah, exactly. So that's even better. So you can get it for a reduced price right now, which is awesome. Coming up on the gaming roundtable, I am going to do it tomorrow. I have decided tomorrow I'm going to just do a bunch of videos. I'm going to do it in the afternoon. I do it at night, but I'm going to do it in the afternoon since I got to go back to work on Thursday. So I am going to bring you some of the stuff that I've been promising. So you sit tight for that. And John, you got anything coming up for our fans out there, for our little niche group that we have? Do you got anything that you're going to be playing or doing?
I will be doing much more cyberpunk play, so I might stream some of that.
Great.
Beyond that, though, I probably won't get into streaming too much other things. I got some kind of one-off titles I really want to check out during a lot, because I pay attention to these sales too, and not just PSN, but oftentimes Target or whatever. Buy two get one, whatever. So I picked up a lot of weird things, like I got Medium that I haven't played that looks really cool to me. So I want to check that out. I got it didn't really get reviewed very well, but have you heard of Away?
Yes, I have.
That flying squirrel thing?
Yeah, it's like a survival game, but you're like an animal, but you can also play as other animals in another game mode of that. And that actually does not look bad, looking at the videos.
Yeah. So that was one of the ones I added in there. Spirit of the North, I ended up picking that up because it's kind of along the same line.
Oh, cool. Very nice.
So I'll check out some of these kind of weird little things like that. Beyond that stuff, we got our other new project coming up.
Yes. We have folks out there. There is going to be a new wrestling organization. It's Unpaid Gamers. Unpaid Gamers Wrestling, which is going to be UPW, and it's we're going to do this, folks. We're going to take the new wrestling game, WWE 2K22. We're having the arenas. We're going to have our own characters, and we're going to be presenting hopefully weekly. It might, it depends on times and different things, but episodic of our characters, and the computer will be playing them, and we will be commentating, and we're going to have our own little wrestling kind of thing going on, like our own group, but within the game. And it's something that we were talking about because I've been watching wrestling since I was 7, and John's been watching it for a long time too, and so we're getting into wanting to take this new wrestling game. Now, the game comes out pretty soon. It is a different company that made it, so we're hoping that it looks great, but we don't know how it's going to play. So we're going to make sure that it ain't like all, because the last wrestling game was meh. It was basically they shit the bed. So we're hoping this is good, but we're going to be bringing you this new wrestling federation based off that game, and we're going to have our own characters and our own commentary, and we're going to figure this all out with a couple trials probably first before we broadcast it. But please stay tuned and check it out if you're looking to see what we're going to be doing with our characters. And some of these are characters that we made over the years in a variety of wrestling games, probably going as far back as the N64 days. So definitely stay tuned to Unpaid Gamers Wrestling, UPW. So we're going to be doing that, and it's going to be a lot of fun, folks. And so definitely check it out. And it also helps we're going to showcase a little bit of that and help you see what you can do in WWE 2K22, which I am hoping it does not have the problems that the previous game did, which was terrible. The horrible things that went on with that one, thanks to Ukes leaving, and new company having to come in and finish it, and it was just, they weren't whatever. So we're going to see what happens with that. But this is a new project that Unpaid Gamers is doing, and we're very, very excited and happy to do this, because this is something new and unique and exciting we're bringing to the channel. I do want you to know that I am still owing you guys that aliens. I'm going to do tomorrow finally, and some other videos. I'm probably going to try to do 3 or 4 tomorrow, literally back to back, and try to get out some stuff some games that I've been playing outside of that, and get into some of that from the beginning, and maybe possibly a WTF. And we'll see what goes on there. And that is what's on the plate. But definitely be looking for the near future for Unpaid Gamers Wrestling. You know, UPW. We're going that, or maybe we'll call it UPGW. Who knows? But we're going to get into that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm excited for it. Yeah. Unpaid wrestling sounds a little bit better. Yeah, UPW.
Po-folks wrestling.
Yeah, I think so. I think Po-folks wrestling, but UPW wrestling sounds great. We're going to do that. But anyway,
and hopefully we'll get some good things out of it. If for one, like you mentioned, we'll check out the gameplay for the new WWE. If it sucks, really, we'll just go back to 19.
Yeah, because 19's fine.
And do it off of there.
Yeah.
So we may. I don't know. I'm hoping we won't create too much work for ourselves. But we talked about starting this, and originally going to do 19 to hold off on this to the new one. And
yeah.
The new 22 also marks the return of the new GM mode, so we might end up doing something with that
yeah,
as well.
we could incorporate that, and you can make your own character and make your own GM. So that might be something we can do. So we're gonna see how all the different options in the game, and I'm excited because it's been a while since I wholeheartedly bought a wrestling game, and at launch it's been a long time since I've done that. So I'm hoping I don't get burned, because I'm going to tell you folks right now, if the game is not up to snuff, I'll never do it again. So that's just how, because I got burned on, one year, a couple years ago, 5 games came out. I spent a lot of money, and only one of them ended up being good. So it was like, meh. So I said I'll never do that again. So we're gonna see how that goes up. But this new Unpaid Wrestling is gonna be fun, and an exciting way for us to give you something to watch, and watch the computer on the hardest difficulty. If you ever done it before, believe it or not, it's very entertaining to watch the computer fight each other on hard, because it's so. I've been doing that for a long time, and they really just beat the tar out of each other. It's fun. So I'm looking forward to...
Unpredictable as well.
Yeah.
We won't even know what happens.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing some commentary on that. And I don't know if we're doing like the WE style commentary where we'll have a babyface commentary, a heel, and we're going to be like, oh my God, and doing all the other stuff. But we're going to come up with something, and just definitely stay tuned in the near future for that. And we're going to be working on some things, and that's coming out here for Unpaid Gamers, and I'm very happy to be asked to be a part of that, and it's really going to be fun. So
UPW Explosion.
Yeah, that's right. UPW Explosions, Michael Bay style, coming at you real soon on Unpaid Gamers, and I'll be bringing you some videos. Well, it's after midnight, so today, a little bit later on, and I'm going to be doing that and showcasing some games. And like I said, John, thank you again for coming to the Gaming Roundtable, having a seat, and talking about the games and stuff. Folks, we will be doing this again next month. We're going to try to be doing this once a month and do this video and talk about the different things. And there's a lot of good coming between John's systems and mine. I mean, we basically covered we can cover everything that comes out that we buy and are looking at, and it's great to bring you this content to talk about the industry as a whole, what the companies are doing. So I really am enjoying the table talk, man. I really am. I think this is some good content for people who's willing to sit here for a couple hours and listen to us fucking go on and on. Yeah, man.
Well, so it's really kind of podcast format, right?
Yeah, at this point, yeah, you're right. You're right about that. So,
and that's the thing about doing just the different things, right? Like, there's some people like to listen for a long time, some people don't.
No, but if you're
if we're doing a mix of everything, there's going to be something for everybody.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, because I work from home a lot, I'll just leave shit like this playing for a long time. And it's nonsense most of the time. And, but I enjoy longer
Yes,
things
and
personally too.
and John's Let's Plays are great because it gives you such a good base if you're wanting to see a game, and it's a Let's Play, and it's just you're watching it from him playing it and seeing what it's all about, and you're watching these games. It's great to sit there. It will tell you what you need to know, and you're watching it, and you can give. It's a good base for what if you're looking to buy a game, what is this about? So those Let's Plays are great. I think they're a great addition to Unpaid Gamers. Myself, I try to be entertaining where I can. I mean, every now and again you might get a chuckle out of some of the stuff I say because I will say some stuff, so I don't really have much of a filter. But it's kind of like when you were telling me would you watch the Hunt Showdown video and I made, and you said it was just funny because I was just dogging all over there's nothing to do. There's nothing. It's like, but it's like, and there still isn't. It hasn't changed. I recently loaded it up last week. I was like, yep, still the same game. Ain't playing it. So I was like, so I don't know. But no, this has been great. I love these table talks, and we'll be bringing you another one. And again, I'll be bringing some videos. Keep a watch for John doing some Cyberpunk gameplay. And again, thanks for coming, man. I'm going to wrap this up. And again, everybody, if you need, please comment and subscribe. Please check out Unpaid Gamers on YouTube.com. We also do some Twitch stuff, but mostly YouTube. Please subscribe and like and hit those notification bells so you can get notifications when we upload stuff to YouTube or Twitch or both. Please subscribe to Unpaid Gamers. Please subscribe to Posthuman Guy. Please also, if you like, subscribe to the Gaming Roundtable. We're bringing you content when we can. And again, thank you for sticking around for us. If you would like to, you can also email me at gamingroundtableupg@gmail.com. That's gamingroundtableupg@gmail.com. You can post some questions, suggestions, or ideas for what you'd like to see on the channel. And again, thank you for joining us here tonight. And thank you, John. Appreciate it very much.
Yep.
And this has been another wonderful March 1st, Tuesday edition of Table Talk with John and Tom here at the Gaming Roundtable. And we will see you on the next episode. And as always, gamers, good gaming.